Good morning. Okay. You ready? Okay, good morning. We'll start with the invocation, a moment of silence, of course, and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Ms. Soto, can I have a roll call, please?
Carlson? Here. Kurtek? Clendenin?
Sleepy but here.
Maniscalco?
Here.
Vieira? Miranda?
Here.
Henderson?
Present.
We have physical forms.
Okay, so Director Moody, can you come to the podium, please, so that we can get some organization of our agenda for today before it's adopted? We have some cleaning up to do. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Good morning, board members. Erica Moody, CRA Director here. A few items for the agenda. We're asking to combine items 3, 4, and 5 to all be included under the director's report.
Yeah.
We are also asking to continue item number 8. And then we are asking for items 9 and 10 to be filed and received as the update report. And we do have a walk-on item coming on the agenda as well.
Councilman Carlson, Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, I would like, on 9 and 10, I would like to vote to receive and file, but then to schedule the same thing for January, just so we can get an update.
Okay, we have a motion to receive and file for, what, 9 and 10?
Yes, and then to schedule the same updates for January 18.
And a second by Board Member Miranda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So the motion is that a similar report be brought forward at the January CRA meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
January
January
18th.
CRA.
Yeah.
January 18th. Okay, proceed, Ms. Moody. That was it? Those are our cleaned up items?
That was it. We just need to figure out where to place the walk-on item.
Yes.
I'm recommending that we place it at the end of the agenda,
Yes.
just to add to the
Okay,
structure.
so we'll place the walk-on at the very end.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes as the, the adopted, the minutes from last month, right? Is that required that I need to adopt approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
A motion for that, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Board Member Miranda, second by Board Member Clendenin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now a motion to adopt, yes, Board Member Carlson.
I think she asked to continue number
8.
8.
Yes.
So I only did 9 and 10, so I'd make a motion to continue number 8 until December 14th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so approval of the agenda for today.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good morning. Okay, before we actually get started, I would like to introduce you to my very first intern as a city councilwoman. I'm so excited. And CRA board chair. Can you please stand up for me, Erica Claire? Erica is a University of South Florida Bull. She is studying environmental science and policy with goals to pursue law school after graduation. Let's welcome our intern. Thank you so much. Is it not working, our television? CCTV?
Yeah.
I'll go out and see if it's, see
8,
if
9,
I can
10.
get the, see. Tim's on.
ball, just to make it a rival.
I'm waiting to make sure the TV is working.
I see something. Here we are. Look at that pretty man.
It's working? Okay, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, public. We're about to start. We've already done the invocation and roll call and pledge of allegiance, and also introduced my intern if you were not, if the TVs were not on at that time. The first thing that we're going to do, we have 2 registered speakers, and we're going to move to public comment. There's no one there? Okay, we have 2 registered though, right? So if they're on, you let me know. Okay. Yes, so please come forward for public comment. Oh, people, yes, they do. Yes,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you guys hear me clear? Okay, my name is Jose Quillon, and I am a resident and homeowner in historic East Ybor City. First time in front of you guys. I just wanted to come and my own representation and a lot of my neighbors. Last week, we learned about a proposed special service district that has been worked on for maybe, I don't know, 6 months by the Ybor City Development Corporation. It's basically keeping our residents awake. The plan in our minds is just to tax close to 2,000 residents that did not get a seat at the table in the discussion. I call it a secret kept on the open, because there were, we all know that the YCDC meetings are open to the public and the CRA meetings are open to the public, but there was little to no effort to bring this to the attention of the residents. Little to no effort to sign us all up for a tax or multiple taxes or special assessments for as long as we live or as long as we own the property, and it carries on with the property. And then leave that power of taxation on 5 people that don't even represent us. We were, according to the budget that she presented, the person in charge of it, Ms. Liz Welch, it would be responsible initially for paying items like a grant writer, $102,000, a manager for the SSD, $100,000, $400,000 for extra security for our business district. I wonder why. They expanded the proposal to 40th Street, meaning that they're including people way outside the current CRA. We do not understand why there is a rush to get this passed when the CRA is basically sunsetting in 10 years. There's no studies that even, I don't believe there is any study that says that the CRA needs to be extended beyond 10 years. I mean, I think it's too soon to say stuff like that. So why there was so little communication? I understand they met, or she met with some of you guys. Apparently, she approached 3 members of the delegation, the Hillsborough County legislative delegation. I spoke in front of them. I was shocked, and it's my first time speaking in front of the delegation. I didn't even know who our representative was. And I got only 60 seconds, and I was there for 8 minutes. I asked you to see the video. They were shocked that the community didn't know anything about this. And then we were lied to. So they said the meeting was informational. You can see it on paper. And they told the residents that they didn't know, they didn't have to even notify us. I'm like, what? That's just crazy and outrageous. So I know this moment is on hold. We don't want any part of it in any shape or form. So I just wanted to inform you guys. Thank you so much for all you do. I appreciate it.
thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm James Wilson. Been a member of the East Ybor Civic Association, very active for 15 years. Before that, I was in Port Tampa with Jill Buford for 10, 12 years, the Civic Association down there, and they flew 2 members and me to Tallahassee to oppose the emulsion bill. We didn't want 100 trucks going right through Interbay, right through Port Tampa. So now I live in Ybor, and I just found out about this a week ago, and I was floored. every neighbor I talk to, they're against it. And I have a neighbors across the street, Teddy and Chuck. They're both Hillsborough County school teachers. So their roof was blown off last year. It wasn't 2 hurricanes, it was a wind blast. So I told them about this, and he about flew off the couch. He said he doesn't want to pay another tax, and they're having a hard time just affording where they're at, being Hillsborough County school teachers. So I oppose this. Everybody I talked to have opposed it, and that's just what I want to say. Appreciate your help, and you can help us not really set it on the table, but just get rid of it. That'd be great. Thanks.
Thanks for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, council. This is Chris Vella. In District 5, 33605, I actually live in Ybor, CRA. I do agree to some of the points of the previous speakers. I think that the communication behind this was really sour. If you guys recall, I was upset when the partnership wanted to extend their CRA coverage over to Ybor. They would have delegated the type of funding that we would need, and they don't even know about our comprehensive plans or improvements that we want, that we've discussed in the meetings. And so I think this is really about control and how you can use the funds and have direct representation of that. Well, I think SSDs are great tools. I think that we just need to have more of a ground-up approach. I think the idea of discussing more funding is needed. Now, I don't know about the gentleman behind me, but we've all filled out surveys, public surveys, where we wanted specific things in our neighborhoods, whether it be paint on streets or maybe new affordable housing. It takes money to get those things. I mean, you could just see what happened with the mayor trying to push that 16% tax hike. But the reality is, and I look at budget sheets, I know about bids, I know about RFQs and Ps, they cost a lot of money. And so we need your guidance. So if the SSD doesn't work, we need to interface with you guys. And you guys got to tell us what type of toolkit we should be driving to our own constituents, our own citizens, or my own community, to figure out how we can bridge the gap with funding. So if this effort does get quashed, I just want the conversation to continue of how we can get more local funding. I expressed my ideas over to city staff, but I'm welcome to sit down with you guys and talk about how we can generate revenue without a tax hike, because I have a plan for that. That works in other places like Tampa. Part 2 of why I'm here, there will be discussion about using CRA funds for the modernization and extension of the streetcar system. I love rail. I love transit. You guys know that. But I don't see that being a good substantial support to bear on for the CRA. Support, for example, is barred by the charter. They can't contribute any money, and they haven't contributed any money to the streetcar since 2000, which is ridiculous. And so downtown is reducing its funds for CRA. Channel Side's going away from the CRA. So really the CRA is going to be impacted the most. It's going to be us with that streetcar system. So it's very important that, again, we hear communication from you guys. When you say you want affordable housing, you guys got to come to us and tell us what your plans are. It's hard for the YCDC, it's hard for the neighborhood associations to figure out how we're going to fund those things. So please don't have conversations in silo about transportation, about affordable housing, because obviously you can see how well that's working with the mayor. It's very important that you guys come to our meetings, let's work together, and let's try to inform our citizens behind it. Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. Good morning.
Good morning. We have a great city and we have a great council, and I'm glad to be here this morning and share something really good. I'll be addressing item 4. I notice it says strengthening communities. So how do we strengthen communities? Well, the backstory on what I'm presenting, which I'm sure you'll agree is a good thing for our city, it starts with 1970. In Washington, D.C., they created public television, okay? And it was funded, and then a year later, they created National Public Radio, okay? And then the question was, National Public TV, National Public Radio, where's National Public Newspapers? Well, in those days, newspapers were very successful, so we didn't need NPN. But today, small newspapers are closing, 2,000 in the last 2 years. The idea of local media, in other words, working with local media so our communities can, how would you say, work with their problems and work with whatever they're doing. So we, in a think tank, I'm in a small think tank called Camelot, Florida, we decided, and I picked up this project, to launch National Public Newspapers Digital. And we're going to do it within the community colleges. We have 900 community colleges in the United States. And many of the colleges have campuses, like Hillsborough County has 5 campuses. So the syndication is out there, it's just waiting to be used. So the first NPN, and I went, by the way, on the timer, I got an extra 3 minutes for Mr. Lopez. So the idea of reaching out into a community with National Public Newspaper, well, we want the headquarters of national newspapers to be in Ybor City, and the perfect place would be Mr. Shaw's new development, and that is why I'm here today, just to inform you that a professor at Ybor City Community College will be the first launch, okay? So it's a beta program. Once we get this working, what would happen is all 5 communities, colleges, would be working with local communities, and they would be basically in digital format, newspaper. Each one of those communities would be working with, yeah, I got the extra 3 minutes.
Okay, give me just, Clerk Soto, please stop the clock.
Thank you.
Did he provide us with the waiver, the form that's needed when you have extra speakers? There's a process for that, correct?
Correct. There's supposed to be.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that there. so-
And really, we basically have 3 minutes per person.
Right.
Unless you can waive that if you want to give them additional time, that's within your discretion, but
Motion for
another minute.
Okay,
Thank you very much. This is-
just a second, it was a motion, so we're gonna have to vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a motion on the floor for an additional minute, not 3,
Oh.
an additional minute,
Okay,
from
I'll take
Board Member Vieira, second by Board Member Carlson. Thank you. All those in favor? Can you state your name for the official record?
Cornelius Cosentino, I'm sorry. And I
Costantino, Cosentino?
retired here in 1978, so,
Okay.
you know,
Have you set the clock for the additional minute, just so we're
Okay.
clear? Just 1 extra minute, sir.
okay. So the end game would be, we would have a national public newspaper headquarters like the one NPR 8 blocks from the Capitol, PBS, television, Arlington, Virginia. Our headquarters would be in our city. And then the syndication, as it grows, would grow out into maybe 1,300 campuses across the United States. This is good for our city. And I don't know how the creator can support this, but basically, I'm coming here to let you know what's in the mill, you know, what's gonna happen. So any way that can be supported would be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Bye.
Next speaker, good morning.
Good morning, council, at CRA board.
Good morning.
I couldn't sleep last night. I wanted to be real with everybody. I don't always agree with Charlie Miranda, but I sure did last night. I think that the administration made a hot mess, and they should have been cleaning it up. Instead, we spent a lot of time and a lot of energy focused on people's individual paychecks. And, you know, the bottom line is the administration made that problem, not you guys. And this wasn't about one individual person. It was about everybody in the city. And we had a mill increase on the table, and had it been presented, this is where the money went. This is where the money went in that original budget. It didn't go to the 3 Ps and the H. It didn't go to parks, didn't go to police, didn't go to paving, and it didn't go to housing. This is where it went. When I gave you this sheet, that's what Mr. Rogero gave me, so don't get mixed up. Yes, we had 54 million in payroll, and all those folks work hard, and they deserve it. But the bottom line is, we have to remember who made the mess, and nobody should be getting aggressive or hostile or nasty to anybody else sitting on that dais. I believe Mr. Miranda was 100% correct. They should have come back with an agenda without the nonsense. I just want everyone to remember that that millage is not scored. It's just, this is 22 million that they put in a savings account when they told us that it was gonna go to 3 Ps and an H. We have to remember that it's not anybody sitting on that dais is an issue. The mayor was sworn in, same day as you guys were, in May. She had 3 months, 4 months, whatever, to grease the skids and talk to people about what she wanted. Instead, she's flopped it up here and said, this is what you get. But it wasn't what she said it was. And that's where the problem lies. Everybody I talked to, they weren't really totally offended by the millage increase. They were totally offended that it wasn't being used for what it was sold. And no one up there can make a commitment to a fire station because a commitment was made in 2019 for a fire station, and the administration made a liar out of that council. I'd like to also point out that Related Group deserves not 1 penny of the $4.5 million or $4 million that they're asking for, because nobody told them to piss around for 2 or 3 years before deciding to get started building something. And they have shown that they're not good stewards of our funds, and they're not very good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public comment, please.
Good morning, CRA Committee. My name is Phil Zaveri. My partner, Chad Tujog. We're back before you again after last week's budget meeting. We were advised last week during the budget meeting that this would be the appropriate forum to come back and talk about CRA involvement for a grocer and a health clinic that we plan to bring to the Encore community, something that we committed to the Tampa Housing Authority back when we purchased Lot 12 in the Encore PD. Since then, since our last meeting, we've been working very closely with city staff to come up with a proposal that we feel will be a win-win for both the city and for us as a developer and the Encore district, something that would essentially not require any funds out of pocket or the current CRA or city council budget, but something that would potentially, be a rebate program that would help us to move the project forward. And so we were here before you today just to make sure before we go down this path even further, working with city staff and meeting with the CAC, that there will be CRA committee support for such a project. All right, and then we will be, the CRA, prior to the last meeting, we had sent out a presentation to all committee members. We'll be revising a presentation with the city staff and sending it out to you guys within the week.
No.
So thank you guys. I mean, if there's any dialogue or questions, definitely happy to talk about it now or in person.
Typically, the CRA board does not respond to, this is just public comment, general public comment. I think once you have a more detailed proposal with staff, then there would be a scheduled time for you all to make a presentation to the board.
Thank you, Attorney Massey.
We understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, have a great day.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Montesnot, Tampa, Florida. I like to say huru. Huru means freedom in Swahili. We say we as African people should always be thinking about our freedom, because for the last 623 years we hadn't been free. People here in Tampa have lots of problems, and it's a great disconnect with the African community. So what you see is basically a lot of disrespect. And the disrespect is so pervasive, it's like phenomenally unreal. Anywhere black people go, we're not treated like human beings. Anywhere we go, we're not treated like human beings. Imagine living like that from the day you're born to the day you die. So that's why you see inside the black community, everything is pervasive. Alcoholism, drug addiction, suicide, homicide, crime, whatsoever it may be. But like I always say, the most important thing for African people is reparations. If we're not talking about reparations, you ain't talking about nothing. A big problem inside the African community right now is child support. And it's not that we as African men don't want to be responsible and take care of our children. It's the fact that they're running a eugenics program, they're running a genocide program through the child support program. It's just like the Indian Removal Acts, the Indian Adoption Acts, and all those other acts that white people created that affects African people or indigenous populations disproportionately. And what I've got right here today is, I'm putting in a request. I've got a request for City Council. That's a copy per person. That's a very simple request, and basically what it states is, as a private citizen, general public, taxpayer, constituent, or resident of the City of Tampa or Hillsborough County, please see the attached summons or service of process, which is right here. Attention Chief Judge Christopher Sabella, please assist me in locating this summons. I, Anthony M. Daniel, is hereby requesting that all Tampa City Council members personally contact Hillsborough County Chief Judge Christopher Sabella and Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Cronister in reference to this particular summons that was allegedly served upon the respondent, Anthony M. Daniel, or myself, on or about October 27, 2015. Since 2016, I've been unable to locate this summons. Well, it's not that they're just doing that to me, they're doing it to many other African people. And they're bringing these illegal child support cases against us, suspending our driver's license, professional license, passports, everything. And it's like nothing you can do about it. So I'm appealing to this city council to please get in contact with Judge Sabella and Chad Cronister and find out where's this summons? Who was it served upon? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Keela McCaskill. I'm sure by now we all know that Forbes announced recently that the city of Tampa is one of the greatest places to live in the state of Florida. And I'm gonna repeat that until we behave like we know it. We're gonna act like we know that. And one of the reasons I came today is I'm sure we're being watched. I'm sure many people, since they've heard that, they've been watching the city of Tampa. And I'm just reminded of a recent scenario we had where one of the individuals being considered for a position, they watched a couple of episodes of city council and decided they didn't want to be here anymore. Couldn't pay them enough money to come work with this body. And so I came today because I'm witnessing some activity here that may not create an environment that's conducive for us to be as productive as I would like to see us to be. Forbes don't make that type of an announcement and we not live up to that. We can't afford that. And I also want to make certain that not only is Tampa the greatest place to live, but it needs to be consistent throughout some of the other areas in Tampa, East Tampa, Sulphur Springs, to name a few. So as a resident, I'm going to address some of the things that I've witnessed. As a resident, I understand the role of my city council member. And on a day like today, I miss Council Member Dean Felder because he was like the granddaddy, goddaddy of city council. And I so miss that because we probably wouldn't have as much of this. So I reach out to an individual based on, I understand your roles, I understand your time and what you have to do. So when I see some or a few of you go over and above to invest in the residents in this city, some of you, I can touch you on any given Friday because you make the investment to make sure we're knowledgeable about health, finances, development, whatever it is, the needs of the city, you make it available every Friday. Not only that, once a month, I can come have coffee. Some of you ride your bikes and what have you so that you can identify with the rest of the people throughout this city, making it known that we can embrace you. You make yourselves available to the people. We don't have to ask you to come somewhere. You show up because this is your city. So if I go to one of you over, or two of you, or three of you, over all of you, I am committed more so, to build a relationship or at least have a meeting with all of you. But if I go to one of you, all of you have strengths, I go to you based on that strength. I'm gonna expect one of you to be a strategist. I know one of you are legal. One of you want us all to get along. One of you are history buffs. Whatever that is, I'm not gonna call your name because I understand that's the new rule. But all of you have a different strength and I come to you based on that strength. So I don't wanna see an attitude, because one of you may have more information than another. I'm gonna be committed to make sure all of you get the correspondence, but I still wanna hear from the one on a particular matter. This is a city, and although you have territories that you represent, each one of you represent the city of Tampa. So no one of you will have more respect in one area or another. All of you represent the city, and we come to you based on that. We can't help, we trust those that are more relational. We can't help, we trust those that make a big commitment into the residents in the city. We trust them based on what they've done. No pun to any of the other city council members, but we come to you based on that, and we thank you. I have a high regard for people that spend their extra time, dollars and resources investing in me as a resident in this city. So my commitment is to work with all of you because we get an opportunity to do something special if we can get this collaborative effort right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Happy Thursday. I am Sally Itzy Lee with the Volunteer Missionary Society Penny Fund. And I would just like to say shortly, how do you feel when you share with someone Deuteronomy 15:10? And I would just like to say it takes 42 cents to make a penny. 3 pennies is $1.30. And I would also like to say that I'm with the sister there. I want to work united too. And I would like to find out about the diversity officer that has time for to talk about racism. And we want to get to the bottom of racism and find out what makes us unproductive, because we have not got to the root cause of unproductivity financially for small businesses like my own. And I would like to challenge the authority that you all can make a change and include the different, like the Penny Fund and the other community organizations. And we need you all, like the sister say, together so that we can get united and get things done. And that's what's holding us back, what everybody else said before. And it's not like getting locked out your closet 5 o'clock in the morning. And it's like that with the situation. We need to find, I want to know who the diversity officers is. I called the clerk's office, but I didn't get an answer. Because I'm like them, I want helping to know what's going on too, and we work together on that. It's a must. If we're to be saved, it's a must that we do this, that we can form some kind of cooperative, and we come to you, and you all would know what we're doing, getting together for the better of humanity. And like I say, it costs 42 cents to make 1 penny. And that's all I have to say, and I'm looking forward to meeting the diversity officer, whoever she is. And one more thing, grit don't quit. And I will never forget that, and I would like to work with whomever too. Thank you for my opportunity. And I wish you all take me seriously. I've been dropping VMS Penny Fund cards in the mail. I haven't received no funds from anyone. And I hope this will be a part of the funding budget. Thank you very much. And have a happy day.
Ms. Johnson, make sure she gets that name of the diversity officer. Thank you. Good morning, sir.
My name is Pastor Frank Williams, located at 1112 East Scott Street, Paradise Missionary Baptist Church. I've been coming down here year after year after year, but I get no results. I guess because of the color of my skin. In fact, my church, they put a block my, alleyway, so I won't have nowhere to park. Now they trying to take the church. There's so much going on here in the United States toward people of color. And, I know one day I'm gonna die. I might die soon before something happens, before y'all try to do something for people of color. Did y'all approve of the mayor getting $2 billion? Y'all didn't approve that? I heard something like that on TV last night, that you were gonna get $2 billion, not $2 million, $2 billion to patch up some roads. I asked y'all for some funds so I can relocate my church. And that'll be a good deed for people of color, because that's most and homeless people. Boy, the way y'all treat homeless people nowadays, boy, thank God they ready to take my little shack now. They coming after me by taking it, hey, you owe this much money, you owe this much money, you owe this. You owe these people, you owe these people. Now they trying to take my home, my resident where I've been in for over 30 years. But they don't care nothing about us. And you wanna know something? Y'all don't care nothing about us either. Now you're gonna give the mayor $2 billion to patch up some damn road, and yet, hey, you won't give me a penny to fix up my house to do nothing. When the insurance company come, after the house done been halfway blowed down, the insurance company give me a few dollars and tell me I need to fix up my house. How am I fix it up with those few dollars? You give me a few pennies? I'm not able to fix up nothing. And I can't do nothing myself. And I got one other thing. Instead of y'all giving me well, I'm so grateful now. Instead of y'all giving me 40 acres and a mule, give me 40 acres and a check. Then that way I could do what I need to do for myself. In the name of Jesus, God bless you.
Okay, so thank you, sir. Are our registered speakers online? Okay, so we will move forward with the agenda. Do we have a, no, that's, Greco. Okay. Good morning, Director Moody.
Good morning, board members. Hope you got a little bit of sleep last night. We are going to try to fly through this agenda. We actually have some happy news coming up. We are excited to invite one of our community partners, Habitat for Humanity, up to talk about some projects that were completed in East Tampa, and we're just so thankful for their partnership along with Fifth Third Bank. So I'd like to take that moment to invite Ms. Nitza Rivera up with Habitat for Humanity to present the award and show off East Tampa.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do you want to speak first? Yeah. Okay. So Habitat Hillsborough has built and preserved many homes over the last several years in East Tampa. But in this last year, we partnered with the CRA and have preserved, actually repaired and built new roofs, totally new roofs on 10 homes. And we are looking to continue doing that work. So there's several other projects underway, but we are more than happy to help.
Excuse me, can you state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Tina Forcier, CEO with Habitat for Humanity of Hillsborough County. But we're looking forward to the ongoing partnership, and we are so happy that we are able to assist in the preservation of affordable housing.
Good morning, my name is Nitza Rivera. I'm also with Habitat. I run the home preservation program, and I am just thankful to be a partner with the East Tampa CRA and some other members of the community to assist families with much needed repairs. Like Tina said, over the past year, we were able to help 10 families replace their roofs in the East Tampa area, and we're hoping to do the same thing this year. So just wanted to say thank you to Cedric and Vanessa, who put in so many hours in working with us, and we have a little award for them or token of our appreciation.
Congratulations. Get in there. Very sad. Any comments from board members? Mr. McCray, would you like to say anything?
Good morning, Cedric McCray, East Tampa CRA Manager. Just want to say thank you to the folks from Habitat Hillsborough County. When we were recognized, it was totally unexpected and greatly appreciated, and it's all formulated from conversations with Ms. Rivera when I started in the position, and the area that received the attention was Highland Pines, and was an event that took place in January, and we look forward to continuing to do some good work with Habitat moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, congrats to Cedric and team. Cedric's always been a rock star, so glad you all did that. The other thing I want to say, though, is that as we've talked about over and over again, to fix the housing problem, we need at least $5 billion, probably more like 10. And there's no way the city will ever get that. But the way we can accomplish it is by partnering strategically with the private sector to take a small amount of strategic taxpayer dollars and spreading it and leveraging it with the private sector. And 4 years ago when I came on board, the city was accused of only partnering with one or two companies. And now through the hard work of folks like Cedric, we're diversifying that and partnering. The great thing about having lots of different for-profit and nonprofit companies involved is that there's diversity of thought, diversity of product, innovation, and competition, which helps in the pricing and in getting and helping the dollars spread farther. So thank you, everybody.
Board Member Clendenin.
Absolutely, and you know, I'm a huge fan of Habitat for Humanity, but you know, and especially this type of a program, and this is where I think sometimes, you know, I disagree with some of the folks that sit up here with me on what the solutions are within the limited resources we have for housing. What I see the role of the city of Tampa, and is exactly this type of a program. You know, it's the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people, incremental success, that we can assist people at the worst moments of their life, or when they're in a stage of their life where they need that little hand up, not a handout, but a hand up to further them and get them through those phases. And keeping people in their houses is such an important element in us as a just society, and it's something that I'm completely in favor of. I think that if we are able to do these small incremental changes, we will be able to impact the lives of the people that live in the city of Tampa in such tremendous ways. As we've seen in our previous discussion when we're wearing our city council hat, we have a very limited amount of resources as a city of Tampa. We're a big city within what appears to be a small budget, but very little discretionary spending. But that spending that when we do spend money, it needs to be smart spending. And again, it has to look at the community as a whole, be able to provide for the vulnerable citizens, the senior citizens, and the people that are, like I say, at risk of being homeless because they can't afford to put on a roof. You know, that's where we should be. And I applaud Habitat for Humanity and the programs that they have, and the other partners, as Councilman Carlson said, the other partners across the city. These are exactly the type of programs that we need to pursue. And I look forward to, for the next 3.5 years, sitting up here to be an advocate for these kinds of initiatives. Thank you so much. And thank you to East Tampa for CRA for help facilitating this.
Board Member Miranda.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate very much, Cedric, for yourself and all the individuals that were with you this morning in making someone's dream come true. However, I just want the public to understand, maybe somebody can tell the public, not today necessarily, what it costs to build a house, even though the land more than likely is given by someone else. And we don't know that. The general public is not attuned to everything. I know you have two stores, one on East Tampa, one on the other west, not Tampa, East Hillsborough Avenue, and the other one on North Hillsborough Avenue that you call, I think, Restore. And those are the things that I'm amazed. I like to go out and just look at things that people bring in, because it really is amazing what they bring in, from cabinets to lawn equipment to nails to you name it, you have it. And I don't go to flea markets too often because there's almost none around anymore. So you're my new flea market that I go to spend some time in wondering how it gets there and who buys it and everything else. And I myself have bought a couple of things there and very grateful, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. But the public should know exactly how you do it. And I don't think that's gotten out yet to the public. It's no one's fault, but it hasn't been transmitted to the general taxpayers or the citizens that live in this area. So my advice is to go on and tell them what it costs to build a house, tell them how you do it, and tell them how you engage so you have more opportunities. That's all. Thank you again for what you all do.
Board Member Hurtak.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to say thank you for the amazing work and the partnership that Habitat has done with the city, and especially with the CRA. And I want to thank both staff and Habitat for working together to make this project so successful. And we're going to be able to continue it. This is just one of the ways that we can help with affordable housing in basically keeping people in their homes. We have many different solutions to this, and this is one of the ways. And it's so wonderful to see how successful it is, so we can focus our energy on other ways so that this program works. It is such a success, and I'm hoping that we can continue it and even grow it into other areas, because Habitat works in so many different aspects of affordable housing. So thank you so much.
Board Member Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. McCray, for presenting this, and thank you to Habitat for Humanity for all that you do. Your reputation speaks for itself. Councilman Miranda talked about the Restore over on Hillsborough. I know a lot of people that use it. I've used it. I've gone there, and just the benefit to the community. They are the benefit of what Habitat does. You change lives, you lift people up, and we certainly appreciate the impact that you make on this community, and we look forward to longstanding partnerships moving forward and continuing to do good things for the most vulnerable and the people that need it. So thank you very much.
Board Member Vieira.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. And just wanted to commend our friends over at Habitat for Humanity. I always like to say there's a saying that by the late Justice Thurgood Marshall that said there's two kinds of people in this world, dream breakers and dream makers. And there are those who break dreams, and we can break dreams through a lot of things. We can be rude to somebody. We can put down somebody's aspirations and say that they don't count. And we can also create policies that are dream breakers. And, I was going to talk about Florida politics. I won't get into that. It's Habitat for Humanity. But there are people who are dream breakers in politics, unfortunately. And I'm not talking, for the record, nobody in the city. In fact, I think all 7 of us here try very hard to be dream makers for people. But certainly Habitat for Humanity makes dreams for people come true. The dream of home ownership and just basic dignity for people. It's often forgotten that what is my favorite movie of all time, It's a Wonderful Life, it stands for a lot of things. One of the things is that the Bailey Building and Loan stood for working people being able to have homes. And that's what it's all about, being able to have a roof over your head so that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you can have dignity. And that's what I believe in, which is that if you're going to work hard and you're going to play by the rules, then there are certain things in life that you're entitled to. That includes a house. That includes a good public education so that your kids can get ahead. That means potentially advancement on the job. That means good quality health care. You guys stand up for one of those basic rights, in my opinion. So thank you, guys.
Yes. Habitat for Humanity, first I would like to say thank you so much for your partnership. Placing new roofs on homes is very significant. I know it helped those families, helped more than likely their insurance premiums, but it didn't happen in a bubble. I just happened to be talking to Cedric McCray about this project, and the community involvement and how it got started is also important. And I would like for Mr. McCray just to speak on that because it began with a survey. Am I correct, Mr. McCray?
Yes, Chair Henderson, Cedric McCray, East Tampa CRA manager. When I came into position, we were presented with a stack of surveys that had gone out to residents in East Tampa, and some of the folks were under the impression they had filled out an application. So when they started to call and inquire and question where they were in the application process, I had to inform them there was a survey. But when we had the conversations with Habitat for Humanity and we were looking at a targeted area, several of the applications came from the Highland Pines community, and if you all know Ma Bell or Betty Bell, who was very vocal and advocate for her community. She and I had some conversations. She said, Cedric, we need help. We have a lot of folks on our particular block in our community that are, you know, they have blue tarps on their roofs, and this is an area of focus, and we need your assistance. So I just asked her to hold on, work with me, and that's when we started to have the conversations with Habitat for Humanity. So thank you, Ms. Bell, for your encouragement and bringing it to our attention, and we look forward to doing some additional work. I also want to say thank you to the CRA board and the predecessors on the CRA board, because you all approved the emergent roofing program last year so that we were able to do this work and partner with Habitat. So thank you so very much. And I'd also like to thank the members of our East Tampa CAC. I think Ms. Copeland Miller, I see her back there in the audience, but they also were in full support of the recommendation to move forward with the roofing program. So thank you.
Thank you. Background and context is so important. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay. Director Moody, are you ready?
Always ready. Thank you so much. And like we said, this is not possible without partnership and support of our amazing staff. So I'm glad that we could be here today to recognize them and all of their hard work and the genesis of this really coming out of the East Tampa residential roofing program. So we will move on to the next item. We have our monthly CAC chair update. We have Mr. Fred Henry III. He is with the Tampa Heights CAC, and he is the co-chair. So I'd like to invite him up to speak about what's going on in Tampa Heights Riverfront.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. Fred Henry, Vice Chair, Tampa Heights Riverfront CRA. Couple of quick updates of what's going on with our CRA. We are now at full membership, which allows productive meetings, and we generally meet through the kindness of the folks at Bush Ross in their conference room on the second Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. Community redevelopment plan update is Professor Trent Green with the University of South Florida School of Architecture and Community Design is providing urban and community-related design services, public engagement, graphic information, and related plan documents associated with updating the Tampa Heights Riverfront Community Redevelopment Plan. The CRA plans will be completed with community input and in accordance with Florida Statute 163, Part 3, and the City of Tampa Imagine 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The final plan documents will also include recommendations and proposed initiatives that will inform the Community Redevelopment Agency Board of Directors, CRA Board, and the Citizen Advisory Committee, CAC, in prioritizing and allocating future tax increment finance funds, or TIF. The proposed budget cost of this project is $96,800. July 6th of this year, notice to proceed was issued. August 8th, progress meeting with Professor Green and CRA staff, and on October 17th of this year, we're scheduled to meet with the CAC to present a project update. We have a nice project we're looking at on Waterworks Park, Utility Stetson lot and the crossing for parking. We're working with Vision Zero Mobility Department on options for implementing a safety traffic calming system at the corner of Doyle Carlton Avenue and the Doyle Carlton exit ramp from 275 to avoid additional accidents and continuous speeding issues have been going on there for a while. We have approved $75,500 is approved from our fiscal year 2023 budget. August 15th of this year, Mobility presented findings and options. The CAC requested a detailed breakdown of submitted cost of $495,400 for our next CAC meeting to see where all those costs are involved to improve that. Another not really cool project is wayfinding signage. That's actually a contract 22-D as in David -11101. CAC has approved funding for a joint participation in the wayfinding study. Of course, that's all the signage around Tampa. $5,800 is approved from our fiscal year 2023 budget. Architecture Plus International, Inc. will conduct the study and document the visitor destinations within the adjacent to the Downtown Channel District, Central Park, and Tampa Heights Riverfront community redevelopment areas. It will also provide locations and conceptual designs for wayfinding signage. On May 1st, the company completed phase 1 of the analysis. On June 30th of this year, phase 2 programming was completed. On August 24th, phase 3 concept design was presented as part of a workshop attended by project team stakeholders. October 17th of this year, they're scheduled to meet with CAC to present a project update. And lastly, we have an art installation roundabout we've been working on for a while at West Palm Avenue and North Highlands Boulevard. CAC approved funding for public art, lighting, and landscape at this roundabout. $200,000 is the amount of funding available for the program in 2023 fiscal year budget. The CAC and CRA continue to work with the city's art department for procurement of artwork, so that's still early, but we're working on it. So any questions, I'm happy to answer any way I can.
Board Member Clendenin.
I'm sure you're already aware of this, because I know FDOT does a great job of briefing, but Woman Hurtak and Councilman Maniscalco and myself were in the TPO meeting yesterday discussing the mobility enhancements that are going to connect the Waterworks Park and Tampa Street and the intersection improvements. So congratulations on getting that. And by the way, that's all being covered by FDOT, so it's not coming out of our tax money or CRA money.
We'll take that too.
So yeah, it's going to be a great improvement to the neighborhood.
Yeah, we're looking forward to partnering with FDOT on this project as well. We just want to get it improved and get it going. You know, it needs done, and we're focused on getting that completed.
Anyone else? Thank you for your report.
Thank you. Nice seeing everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello again.
Hello.
So this is item number 3, the director's report. 3, 4, and 5 will all be heard together under the director's report. So I will try to keep it short. We'll have a longer director's report in October and November, but we'll try to keep today brief. I also wanted to talk about a few more other mission moments that we've had, and we work so hard that we're always on to the next one, but wanted to backtrack a little bit and just showcase that we had a ribbon cutting for 4 new homeowners along with the Tampa CDC, and that was done in partnership with the CRA. We had a few of our board members present and just wanted to read some investment that we did there. So the East Tampa CRA provided $183,000 on the front end of this homeownership project to connect the homes to sewer and water, which then improved the entire neighborhood. So that was a big investment on the front end, and then also when the homeowners were ready to close, we assisted them with down payment assistance, and we actually got to meet the families that were moving in. So that was a great moment, and that happened on July 15th. And then also a more recent accomplishment and celebration that we've had is a groundbreaking at the Kid Mason Community Center. So we're really excited about that for downtown. We heard amazing speech by Senator Arthenia L. Joyner, and just really a great project getting off the ground. So we invite everyone to follow our progress and come to the ribbon cutting. The CRA has invested $2 million to revitalize the Kid Mason Community Center, and that will include renovating the restrooms, the kitchen, teaching areas, playground, yard areas, replace windows, make it hurricane safe, as well as the existing flooring and other renovations. So I know we are aware of it, but I just want to share it with the public and let them know some of the great things that are happening in the Tampa CRA. Moving on, we are knee-deep in agency restructure, so we have relocated our staff based on their work groups. So previously it was based on district, and now we are assembling our work groups. So we have our grants team building. So our grants team has all moved to the EBOR office, and they're already collaborating and cross-sharing grants. So it won't just be siloed per district. We'll use our skills and really cross-share that. So that was a big move. We also went through all of our paperwork at that time, archived our information, and just have everything up to date. So we have the grants team in EBOR, and then over in the East Tampa offices, we have all of the CRA managers. So the managers are collaborating every single day, talking about what's going on in their district, cross-sharing information, and they're able to assist each other on that level. And then over at the Tampa municipal offices, that's where I am. We also are building our administrative team, so we have our admin assistants and really creating standard operating procedures and really just making sure that all of the administrative functions are good. We also have our project management team there. Those are our heavy hitters where they are overseeing really big investment projects, and I'm really excited to announce that we have promoted from within. We have a rock star. Her name is Melissa Martinez. She was a project manager. Now she is our senior project manager, and she's really excited about the role and just an absolute rock star. So she's already doing all of our auditing of our projects, vendors, and our grants, which I'll speak more on in a second. Comprehensive grant audit. So we have, the Tampa CRA currently has 18 grants that we administer, different ones per district. So we are looking at every single detail of the grant, from the application to the restrictions, to the matching requirements, to the utilization, to see if there's really a need in the community, as well as new grants that we can propose and bring towards the board. So that's just taken a lot of time to see the details of every single grant, kind of where the red tape is and where we can just streamline and make things more efficient. So we're about 70–75% completion with that grant audit, and I'm excited to bring you back with some recommendations to really streamline, move forward, and just get grants out the door. Grants is what's available to our community. We have projects, but our residents, our businesses, our homeowners, that's who can apply for these grants and really utilize these resources. So we want to make sure that we're selling them, that we're communicating, and that they're being utilized, because we don't want grants and money to sit there and 0 people to apply. So with that, we've also put a consultation link on our website, so you can easily book a consultation with anyone from the team and talk about your ideas, where you live, what a CRA is, what grants we could stack and match with you. So we are just trying to open up the transparency, be more accessible. So if you wanted to book through the consultation link online, that is there right now. And another accomplishment that we've done is bring all of our CAC minutes online too. I got an email from a CAC member, and she was able to pull all the information without needing to ask for it. So that was a little win that we celebrated as well. Yeah, and those are the major director updates at this time. We'll start to move into item 4, but I will pause for any questions regarding some of the things that was just discussed.
Board Member Carlson,
Yeah, I just
followed
want
by
to,
Board Member Hurtak.
I just wanted to compliment you and for the radio program you did on Saturday. I said this to you privately, but I want to say it publicly. You had several people lined up, and it was a great representation of the CRA and the kind of promotion the CRA needs to make sure the public knows their money's being spent well. Thank you.
And I just also wanted to thank you. It just seems like we're just humming along, and I know you're putting in a lot of hours, and your team is really, working hard. And thank you for these updates. It's really, it's just very exciting, and I feel it in your presentation, but it also is infectious. So I just want to say thank you. It's a great way to start the day.
Board Member Clendenin.
You're making it look too easy.
That's the goal.
You're just making it look too easy. You got to learn how to be a bureaucrat. This is exactly. No, congratulations. Good job.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, let's move on.
Great.
You know I'm proud of you. Go.
Thank you, thank you. And my motto is to make it look easy, but there is so many hours spent up at night, and I could return the compliment right to you. I know all the hard work that you put into our city and to your constituents, and it's a work of heart and passion. I say it's hard work, but it's worth it, and we're here for it. So thank you very much. We'll start to move into the mission, vision, and goals. So I'll ask T&I to bring it up, or I will figure out technology along the way. But this is really tying up a bow around some of the things that we discussed in our last meeting. So in our last meeting in August, I presented the mission, vision, and objectives, thank you, for the Tampa CRA, and listened to your feedback. I also engaged with our staff more, just so we can all be part of our why that we talk about.
Excuse me, Board Member Moody. I think there's a technical issue with it. CCTV, the board members cannot see the presentation on our screens. You're welcome. I thought it was an issue. I mean, rebooting always helps.
Isn't it the case? Turn it off, turn it right back on.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. We see it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we're looking to finalize the mission, vision, and objectives in this meeting, so then we can start to move forward. We're developing key performance indicators and really creating a program matrix. So I am excited to start rolling this out as we move along. and really looking at our grants, our activities, our outputs, and then getting into long-term outcomes. So we're really excited to set the foundation through our mission, vision, and goals so we can start to move into objectives, measurables, and metrics, and all of that will hold us accountable and also be available to the public so we can engage and continue our good work and make a great impact. So with that, I'll go through our presentation. Anything highlighted in yellow is a change that we made based on the board's feedback. So we talked about strengthening communities. The example of the power of partnership today is a great demonstration of how we strengthen communities through partnerships. The discussion that we had was around enhancing and attracting development. We are community focused, so instead of attracting development, we want to focus on developing communities and create thriving, inclusive neighborhoods that enhance quality of life and foster economic growth. That starts to invite some of our key objectives that we'll get into. But the only change from the last meeting was developing communities rather than attracting developers. Here we have highlighted, so we focused on redevelopment efforts. We wanted to tie in our motto here to strengthen communities in an equitable, diverse, and sustainable way. So after a closer look, we thought it was really important in our vision and in our mission to showcase diversity and equality and equity. So that's why we folded it in here, so then we can be held accountable to doing so. We talked about this. This was previously the objectives for the CRA, and I like them because I see them as responsibilities to our constituents and to be good stewards of our fund. So instead of getting rid of them, we reworded them to be a commitment to the community. We are here, we exist because of the community, and we have commitments and responsibilities to them. So we just kind of reworded this, and we'll write this as a commitment and kind of oath to the community, if you will. We just added economic and public benefits just to bring the public in on that. We have our focus areas. We jazzed it up a little bit more. The only thing we changed was connectivity. So we talked about transportation, and we think of vehicles when we talk transportation, but we're really talking about connecting neighborhoods and people together, and that's through all multimodal formats. So that's why we changed it to connectivity, and we can further explain that as we get into our transportation and streetcar discussions. Then we broke down our proposed goals. So these goals are really the baseline of what we measure everything to. So when people come to us, we will give them our goals and say, tell us which goals you're matching for the CRA. So that is why it's really important that we want to focus on the homeownership gap, which is the 80% AMI. And those are the conversations that we really want to engage with, to invest in these underinvested communities and people. So we want to see 80% AMI, and we want to see it for home ownership. You'll see that highlighted. And then we also added a new goal. This is around temporary and emergency housing options to stabilize communities and reduce the percentage of H&T housing and transportation costs. So we do recognize that rental is needed for emergency, transitional, but ultimately we want that to be the path to home ownership. So what I did was I looked at the housing needs assessment that's almost complete, the goals of the city, and making sure that the CRA is tying into the overarching goals of the city, and that's how we created this goal. Then we have connectivity. We have complement, because as much as we would love to do it all, we are based on partnerships. So we need to partner with city departments, with private partners, and really complement the work that is being done. So we complement this reliable and integrated public transit network system, as well as you'll see promote smart, sustainable, and eco-friendly transportation with the goal of reducing cost burden on the transportation front just as much on the housing front. Economic development. We really got into this one. I'm working closely with our Director of Economic Development, Mr. Javier Marin, and we really want to focus on growing entrepreneurship, supporting small businesses. So we are collaborating and we revise these goals together, and really to support new and existing businesses. to access this capital, grant funding, and we also added technical assistance because we understand the legal jargon sometimes can turn people away and seem a little complicated, but we will sit side by side with applicants and we will help them fill out their application. That links into our consultation booking on our website, and we do want to provide the technical assistance to be able to navigate these resources that are available and possible. We also talked about providing incentives that leverage private financing to encourage entrepreneurship, small businesses, and job creation. Just like we said, we want to work with the businesses, and we also want to scale up businesses in the CRA. So we have a scale up initiative that we're also working on. And then we just added community gathering spaces to the last one. Quality of life was pretty clear, but we really want to develop this sense of community where neighbors know each other, where we can rely on each other for that social support. We can't do anything completely alone, but we do want to build neighborhoods and communities where we know our neighbors, we feel connected to what's going on. So really just focusing on that community efficacy. We also added to access essential needs and resources. So we want to make sure that the developments that are coming into the CRAs are actual needs of the community and not just other people's ideas coming in. So that's why we are going to be data-driven in our decisions and investments so that we know that there's actually a demonstrated need in the community and that what we are doing is supporting that need. So just wanted to make that clear here as well. Then we have community engagement. We didn't make any edits here, and we had a conversation of, should community engagement be a goal, be an objective? And I have stood on this, that yes, we are founded to work with our community advisory committees, to work with our residents, and to have them be a part of the decision-making process, as well as the outreach and communications to making it accessible, letting the public know what we're doing, how they can utilize it, and we pretty much just left these as is. And this is where we also put our clear measurables, indicators, and we want to have that communication with the public of what we're doing and how we're measuring ourselves, and then always kind of leave that as a working document to where we can fluctuate with the community and grow along with them as their priorities and needs change. So we have community engagement as one of our goals. So we did keep that one. And this is the presentation. So this is kind of finalizing our mission, vision, and goals for the Tampa CRA, which will then be the baseline for developing all of these measurables.
Okay, any comments? Board Member Carlson.
I can't tell whether you have the teacher eye where you can see out your peripheral vision or not.
Yeah, I saw your body movement.
Thank you and your team. This is, anybody who was here 4 years ago knows this is a radical shift from where we were 4 years ago. Before 4 years ago, this was like a slush fund for subsidizing developers. And that's one strategy that can be argued. But this, what you've just presented, is the outline, and it's a strategic plan that we've been asking for several years. It is, the beginning, the beginning guts of it, and it is the beginning of a new model for economic development in Tampa. And this is the model that has worked in many other cities. It's the model that changes the numbers that we showed in Tampa scorecard. It's going to, using this money effectively to implement a new model for economic development and focusing on people and neighborhoods is going to make sure that we move the numbers, and we talked about this. So the other thing, I've had long conversations with Elise and Nicole, and I think and I haven't met the new economic development guy, but it sounds like I would agree with them 100% on what he thinks as well. So I'm looking forward to meeting with him. I met with the mayor again yesterday and said, we've got, at the city, this budget is what, 80 million or something next year. We've got a small petri dish to experiment with this, but in important areas where we can make a big difference, East Tampa, West Tampa, we can really move the needle and show results from this limited amount of money. But with a $2 billion budget, with our other hats on, we can really change this city. And if we, instead of outsourcing economic development to exclusive groups like the EDC, if we focus on real impactful community development, economic development citywide, our numbers will be off the chart, and Tampa really, truly will be one of the best cities in the world. Thank you.
Any other comments? Board Member Hurtak.
Thank you. Just want to thank you again for this. And I think the part that stands out to me is where you said that if people want to come and partner, they're going to have to point to where this fits in. And I think that that is a really good way to focus our energy and our time. And so I just want to thank you for the thought that went into that. And thank you and your team's hard work on this.
Okay, number 5.
Let's go. Thank you for your comments. Number 5 should be relatively quickly. This is wrapping up the discussion from the CAC policy restructure and along with the CRA bylaws. So we updated the bylaws for the CRA and the CAC policy structure, as well as the CAC application here. The discussion last month was around EBOR and asking for 10 at-large, 10 ex officios, and to have the 2 emeritus positions to serve out until they can no longer serve. So we have made that change within the policy structure, and we are presenting it today as is. You'll have a memo and the policy in your documents, and we have made the change that has been requested.
Thank you. Any comments?
And if this
Attorney
is acceptable, it would be appropriate for you to make a motion to approve the new policy as revised, so.
So moved.
She's going to present it, but isn't it a different item, though? It's an item that's coming up as well.
They combined the items.
Yeah.
They combined, there was an item to revise it and
Okay.
then to represent it, and then we combined it as one right now.
Okay, so Board Member Miranda said so moved, second by Board Member Carlson, although it was the other way around. Okay, thank you. All right, yes. Board Member Carlson made the motion, second by Board Member Miranda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Okay, before, Director Moody, thank you for combining all those together. And I just want to say, you have hit the ground running, and I really do appreciate that. But I do know that, there is a top-down approach, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Director Administrator Travis and Deputy Administrator Drumgo for giving you clear directives as you enter this new role, because you are, rock starring it out. But I do know that there are levels to this, and you have some great support on top of you, and then, of course, what you do underneath you. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as you move forward with the business of today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. This would not be possible without them,
Yeah.
and coming on board, their support was a big reason why I felt comfortable taking on this big role. So they have been extremely supportive, and I'm glad it's going well. Okay, so that wraps up items 3, 4, and 5, and we start to move into item 6, which is reporting on the Downtown CRA and potential limitation or sunset conversation. We discussed this last month as well, and we're looking to get to a point of clarity today on it. So I will pull up the presentation, if you could give me a moment, or if T and I could bring up the downtown budget analysis PowerPoint. And we have the same presentation as last month, but I did write notes and go back and listen, and I just wanted to highlight some of the additional proposed projects that were discussed. We have our commitments that we'll bring up, but then we also have a proposed project list, and these are ideas of development and improvements that still need to happen in downtown Tampa. But they're just preliminary. So they're estimates, they're not approved, they're not locked in, but this is where we were having the conversation of things that we do want to see happen in downtown. So I'll just kind of highlight some of the items that we discussed last month. This is the conversation where we talked about looking into Big Blue as the police station and potentially the CRA buying it and redeveloping it into affordable housing with a potential station or first response resource on the first level. We have reached out to Chief Tripp and started that conversation on what it would take, what it would look like, but this is where it would happen in the downtown budget. We also talked a lot about transportation, expanding the streetcar. It led us into a conversation on Marion Street and the additional things that can be done to activate that street, as well as Franklin Street, and giving that another go to really make it a pedestrian walkway. We talked about Kylie Gardens.
Do you need to advance the slides, or are you just talking to it? Sorry.
I'm just talking about some of the things that were talked about last month, and then we'll get into it. So I have like 2 more. But we talked about Kylie Gardens here. We talked about park improvements and accessibility, and we also talked about housing with the Army, Navy, and additional sites for affordable housing in downtown. So we'll bring up the presentation and go through. These are the slides that you've seen before, and we'll pick up the conversation pretty much where we left off. Just a little bit of the background. This is requested by the board to look into the committed money for the Downtown CRA and then also potential projects for the future. As you know, the redevelopment area is slated for 2043 sunset. There is an interlocal agreement. 100% of it is funded by the city, so it's not a county contribution here. And then we also have a 10-year outlook through 2033, and we can project beyond that to 2043. And then it's also important to understand that the plan is currently being rewritten, so we can talk about that a little bit more. But it's a perfect time to have this discussion as the downtown redevelopment plan is being updated. So whatever the board decides, we can fold that into the plan with the open scope of work that currently exists. So very timely. And then also just the projections are at an 11% increment revenue, and of course that can fluctuate and is just an estimate over time. We talked about our commitments. These are the commitments that are locked into the downtown budget. As you see, we have $116 million over 5 different properties above, and that ends by 2029. So you'll see in 2030, that's where the money starts to open up, and additional projects would come online at that time. These are the proposed projects that we were talking about. These are the ones that are listed, but we had a lot more conversation around the projects that I was previously speaking on and that you all care about. This is the increment revenue analysis. So if we only stick to our committed payments, you'll see that if we just do our commitments all the way to 2033, that brings us at $330 million. On the right-hand side, we have the commitments plus proposed, and that opens up additional monies in 2031, but still has about 12 million unassigned funds here. So I'll kind of back away and allow the conversation to occur, and I can go through any slide that you want to see, and we can talk.
Board Member Maniscalco, Board Member Carlson.
Thank you very much. And this is important to see looking forward. $330 million is what would be available looking, to the future. And on the previous slide, it had the biggest chunk was for housing, $136 million, and then we have land acquisition. And that's something that we've discussed and talked about, and I was brainstorming this morning of how we can utilize those funds for housing, what we have existing in real estate that the city already controls. For example, the Army-Navy site is something that was most recent. But there's a lot of opportunity here as this urban core, the central business district continues to grow, and the density builds and the residential grows. There's a lot of affordable housing options. There are options in conjunction with the general fund for addressing fire station needs. I think there's opportunity there between downtown and the Channel area. There's just this CRA, being that it has so much money, will continue to grow, and so much availability over the next several years. I mean, we can focus on doing so much, taking the burden off the general fund, utilizing these CRA dollars wisely where we can meet some of the most pressing needs and demands. So this is very promising to see, because all I see beyond numbers, I see opportunity. And things that we've been talking about lately, our priorities, the administration's priorities, and that's it. Thank you.
Board Member Carlson, yes.
Can you go back a slide, please? So that those five don't include many other smaller projects, right? Including Tampa Union Station and several others. So those are just the five big. What'd you say?
Jackson House.
Jackson House.
And Tampa Theater.
Tampa Theater's on it.
For the record, can you all say that a little bit louder, please?
Yeah, Jackson House and Tampa Union Station and probably others are not, just the smaller ones, smaller
Correct,
amounts are not.
that list is not totally complete.
Just so the public knows. This list was not created by us, it was not prioritized by us, it was just a list that was thrown out by previous staff. Last night, we spent, how many hours was it? 8 hours?
A lot.
Talking about needs, not wants. Can you go back to the next slide? Whether you like these things or others, think about the discussion we had last night about how last night we spent a lot of time talking about $45 million. There's 330. Did you figure out what the number is up to 2043?
It would be over 600 million.
Yeah, so this is just the first 10 years, and then after that, and so we spent hours and hours talking about $45 million. If last night we had, and you didn't do the schedule for what it would mean even just for next year, but there would be some excess maybe starting in the first year. But if we just had another $5 million, we could double the road repair budget. And and think about what we could do with affordable housing or whatever. If we had had access to this money last night, even another 10 or 20 million, it would have made a huge difference. And so I would just ask everybody, think about what the test is. My other test is, think about you're standing with a homeowner and they're saying, why is my road falling apart? Why is the park in my neighborhood falling apart? And all these things may be important, but if you're going to invest in these downtown, we're also going to have to explain to the people in the neighborhoods why we're not investing in their neighborhoods. And I'm weary of having to explain to them all the time, in part that the money's trapped in downtown. Kylie Gardens, there's a political issue that has to be resolved there. I've got friends on both sides. I'm friends with the Friends of Kylie Garden. I'm friends with the GMF and other people. It's an important park, important design. GMF is I think the most important event in downtown in the year, and they can't operate with Kylie Gardens being a garden again. Somebody in the administration has got to resolve that. Last year or earlier this year, the city tried to kick them to a different park, which doesn't work. We've got to resolve that issue before we can pick sides, because if we start to fund this, we're going to be in the middle of a bigger political battle between two great organizations. Marion Street, I found out, as I said last month, I found out about the Marion Street thing through the community, not through staff. And so I think if it's an idea that's being discussed, we should have it on the agenda and discuss it at some point in the future. If you're thinking about, I don't know how we would get up there, but we'd have to make a right turn in downtown, I guess. But if we're looking at moving the streetcar up Marion Street, that's different than just making it a pedestrian walk. But I don't see how we could. Anyway, on housing, when we're looking at the nice to have versus what we can have, housing, they put, I think, 30% of the money in housing arbitrarily there. But as I've said many, many times before, yes, we need affordable housing in downtown, and we are investing in some, but we desperately need housing in other places, and we could get way more bang for our buck just a few blocks away. And so if we as CRA board cannot designate this for a housing fund, but for example, we could send some of it back to the general fund, and then with the county's approval, we can do that. And then as city council, we can negotiate with the mayor to, at least in the short run, put it into a housing fund and try to label it like that for future generations. I think that it's the fiscally responsible thing to do, considering the conversation we had last night. The fiscally responsible thing to do is give some of this money back to the neighborhoods where it came from. All of this is not downtown's money. This is money subsidized by the rest of the city. And if it's their money, why are we not fixing their streets? Why are we not fixing their parks? Why are we not building affordable housing throughout the city? If we move it out, we can choose to put affordable housing wherever we want, or fix roads wherever we want. And so what I would suggest to end is, like I said last time, is just a cap. We can cap it at 117 million. If you all think we should keep some money in for downtown housing, add another 20 or 50 million. If you think we should do several of these things, add 100 million. But even if we added 100 million, we still would have more than 200 million that we could move out. And that would be seen, considering conversation last night, that would be something where we could show that we've taken decisive action and we're being good stewards of the taxpayers' money, and we're being fiscally prudent, and we're doing our part to contribute back to the city. Thank you.
Board Member Vieira, then Board Member Clendenin.
Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, I've long supported, and a majority of this council has long supported capping the downtown CRA, or having some method by which we, just temper this obvious excess. You take a look at this list, some of it's great, some of it you're like, man, that would be better spent in New Tampa or South Tampa, areas that aren't CRAs. I think we all agree with that. Something that we do have to continue to push for, and I know Councilman Clendenin has been such a great champion of this, is the streetcar. I'm sure he'll talk about that, so I won't talk about it. But just something to keep out there. And I know Councilman Clendenin has done a great job in bringing that to the forefront and whatnot. But again, my challenge is we should hurry up and do this. I mean, we could have probably done this a year or two ago, and and we continue to have things before us, whether it's the Tampa Theater, I voted for that. Whether it's the Straz Center, I voted against it. Whatever it is, but things that if we look at it in the general budget, we wouldn't spend that kind of money on it. But here we go, it's in the CRA, so let's just do it. Let's end that narrative like now and get this ball rolling, because our neighborhoods need it, I suggest. Again, these are all these things, wonderful investments to great communities, but they can be spent in a more equitable way if we temper the excesses. So I say let's get this thing rolling. I know we have the support. We had it last time. We'll continue to have it now. I know there's legal distinctions between this and the channel side CRA and looking at modifications to there. This is more of just a clean move that we can do with, I think, only benefit for us, quite frankly. So let's roll.
Clendenin, and then Board Member Miranda.
Hello. So I want to say I agree with, I think, almost everything that Carlson said, Councilman Carlson said on a lot of these items. This list, I really want to find out how this list came into being, because it doesn't necessarily seem to jive with the values of the people that I share this dais with, that are on the CRA board. And especially and definitely in a prioritization. If there is a legal way for today for us to move that 136 out of downtown and parlay that in to some of the projects that Councilwoman Hurtek has supported, like building housing and elsewhere, to get bigger, be able to service more people and be able to provide housing for more people. If there's a way of doing that, man, let's do it. If there's not, then we can't. But if there's a way of doing that, I'm all on board. If we can get that money out of the CRA and build affordable housing in areas of the neighborhood where we can get 2 or 3 units for the price of 1 downtown, makes sense to me. Councilman Carlson, Marion, I've had some informal conversations about Marion Street. Hart is looking at, they've deactivated it. It was a great idea that just did not work, and so they're looking at deactivating that street as a transit corridor, and maybe potentially we could take it over. I mean, I kind of envision that area as a green mobility spine, north-south spine through the city, that we could activate kiosks and art space and whatnot, and have a big green spine through the city. But it would not be a part of the streetcar expansion proposals. Yeah, but again, some of those other things, man, there's a lot double in those details. The historic streetcar you have on the agenda, what's that 1.2? That's on this priority list?
The CRAs that are served by the streetcar, the Ybor CRA, the Channel District CRA, and the Downtown CRA annually contribute, I think approximately $200,000 a year toward the operation of the streetcar.
So that's the operational cost?
Yes.
That's 1.2? Okay, very good. I just want to make sure. And Poe Garage, why is that there? Our parking is making money. Why are we spending money out of the CRA for parking?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know?
Yeah, I believe there's some reinforcement that needs to happen on the garage. Mr. Drumgo might have more information. Yeah, okay, so it just needs to be reinforced and be. like,
Yeah, I
integrity.
wouldn't support spending CRA money when we seem to have an excess of money in parking unless I slept through that part of the presentation.
Is this the, can
For
you guys
the-
see the proposed list?
Yes, if we could just get for the proposed project list up on the screen, but, for the record, Elise Drumgo, Deputy Administrator for Development and Economic Opportunity. Just to kind of lay out for you all, some of the priorities. I know that there are some priorities that you all have openly discussed that are part of this list, but then also a lot of this originates within the CAC. So it's not always staff's doing as to compile this. The staff member that is the liaison between the organization and the CAC, they go into those meetings, they work through the budgetary process, and that's how your budget is developed through that CAC. And so those recommendations come forward before the board and you adopt those recommendations. So in this situation, if there's something that you don't want to pursue going forward, we can certainly realign that. And this conversation about capping is a part of that. This is how you would go through that process. But then also, a lot of this, it's just conceptual. So we don't necessarily know what it would take to execute on any of these projects. It's just, these are conversations with some general estimations of what it may take to do it. But if we were to go forward, or if this board were to want to prioritize any of these projects, we would go from concept to try to get true costs to figure out how we would fund it and how the CRA would be a participant in that, and we would bring that back to you. So if you all, as a board, would like to eliminate any of these or reprioritize, that's.
Well, I think that's probably a much longer discussion than we're gonna be here today.
Absolutely.
So this seems like something that before we spend any money or we devote resources, I think this board needs to reach a consensus on what these priorities look like for, before we spend money.
Attorney Massey.
And let me just add, right now, downtown is going through the exercise of updating its community redevelopment plan, which the community development plan for downtown is a 1980s redevelopment plan. It has not been updated since the 1980s. And so part of this would be, I think, this discussion about what projects are identified for potential funding in the future by the CRA should be addressed in that community development plan, so that when that plan comes forward, that would be the appropriate time for you all to decide, yes, it's something we may be interested in pursuing in the future and should be included in the plan. No, that's not something the CRA is really interested in being.
Yeah, I was just fearful that that this potentially, some of these items could be a rabbit hole for resources if somebody doesn't speak out,
Absolutely, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're absolutely correct on that, board member, and so, a lot of it for us, we're compiling the list that the CAC would like to pursue, and as you all have just stated, we're in a different place than we were 4 years ago. We've now set new goals, we've set new priorities, and so it's our opportunity to look at how those goals and priorities that you've established align with the projects that the CAC would like to see go forward. And I think updating the redevelopment plan as a whole is a good jump-off point for the realignment of your priorities with the priorities that are coming out of the CAC, and then embedding it all in the plan. That way you have a clear picture of the expenditures that you'll need going forward, so that you can truly cap and know what that figure will be.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And again, as Councilman Carlson and others have said, that we definitely need to look at a way to spread this revenue stream, because people look, a lot of the discussions and emails we received on the budget was, how in the world can we not afford to run the city with the increased property valuations, not understanding so much of the stuff is corralled outside of our ability to tap for the general revenue. So I think this is a great demonstration if we've got this money, and especially as you project out, we have these commitments as you project out in just a few years, where those lines diverge. I know it may seem like a long time from now, but in government speak, it's like tomorrow. So we need to make a plan looking at that divergent point, so that we can regain the control of this. Lastly, I'm going to just say on the streetcar thing, we're going to have further discussion on this later on in this meeting, so I'll put a pin on that. But that's definitely going to be up there on the list.
Okay.
And let me just describe legally how you would cap the percentage of contribution if you wanted to reduce it. Right now, the city puts the maximum amount of the tax increment that it comes into the city portion of the taxes into the Downtown Redevelopment Trust Fund. And that's required actually under the interlocal agreement we have with Hillsborough County. So we would have to amend the interlocal agreement with Hillsborough County to allow us to reduce the percentage. You would also have to amend the ordinance that was adopted way back when the downtown redevelopment area was created to amend the trust fund. You set up a trust fund at the time, City Council did, and you would have to amend it and say, we're going to fund it at a lesser level. State statute allows you to reduce that down from 95% of the TIF to at least 50%. So you can go down to 50%. That's the minimum level that you have, as long as the redevelopment area exists, that you have to fund that.
So I think what we should probably move forward with this list and with this agenda is, one, we need to have further discussion, us as a CRA board, about these priority lists, include our subsequent conversation we're going to have today, figure out what our priorities are and what the dollar figures are there, and then make that balance sheet jive with projected revenues, and when we can realistically, meeting the priorities, we can realistically cap or sunset the CRA and still accomplish the goals of redevelopment.
Board Member Hurtak.
Thank you. I thought Board Member Miranda?
He changed his mind.
Oh, okay, just wanted to make sure, no problem. So can you go a couple slides forward? Because I don't want to look at this proposed projects list. I feel like we are, that's kind of a time suck for us, and it's not our list. So, oh, I'm sorry, the one that has the pretty green and red lines.
I'm
The
sorry, I
commitments.
can't
Yeah.
see it, if you could just.
The commitments.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, the commitments and where we are and where we're gonna be able to work. So
Yeah.
2028 really looks like the end of our major commitments. I don't have a problem with capping the CRA to help fund and focus on certain things. I tend to disagree with my colleagues who want to take affordable housing out of downtown, because once you take it out of downtown, you cannot put it back. And we don't have a transportation system in this city. We won't anytime in the near future. That's really robust. And so what you're telling people is that if you don't make enough money, you can't live downtown. And I wholeheartedly disagree. It's a fundamental thing. And I know that some of us don't agree with affordable housing money spending. And I strongly do. So one of the things I would like to do is to see the CRP in draft as soon as that's available, emailed to each of us individually, just so we have a chance to really look at it before it goes super far in the CAC process as well. It's not that, they can do their own plan, but I don't want it to get too far without our input. Because if I don't want to waste anyone's time with that. Oh, Mr. Drumgo is saying that might be too far? Okay.
Please continue. I was just gonna.
Oh, okay, great. And I also tend to agree that, Mr. Massey, what is the time frame to amend this? So you said we'd have to take it to Hillsborough County. So it doesn't sound like we can just take some money out,
No,
this
not
week,
tomorrow.
this month, the next 6 months.
If you want to cap it, the percentage of if you're trying, there's two things that you could potentially do. If you're talking about capping the percentage of the TIF that goes into the trust fund for downtown, there's two steps. We have to amend the interlocal with Hillsborough County, so that does require some conversation with Hillsborough County. I don't see that taking a huge amount of time, but it does. Would have to go to their board, would have to come to you as City Council. Then you would have to, you'd have to amend the ordinance that created the trust fund as City Council. So those are two actions. I think that the time would be necessary to be spent is to determine what that percentage level should be based on what our commitments are and what we might want to do in the future.
Yes, and I'm not talking about, I'm just talking about the actual time. So say we had already decided, we know exactly what the percentage,
you're probably talking 30 to 45 days to do.
Oh, wow,
So
okay.
fairly quickly. I don't think it would take long. The other thing that you potentially could do is seek to terminate or sunset the Downtown CRA before it's currently scheduled to be terminated, which is 2043. That would require the plan to actually be amended. That's a little bit more of an involved process. You have to go to the Planning Commission for them to review it, then it has to come back to this body for its acceptance. Then it has to be distributed to all the other taxing authorities, so they're aware of what's going on, and then there's a public hearing to actually amend the plan with you all sitting in city council. Again, it's not a, like, 60-day process is what you're talking about there.
Okay, yeah, I'm not interested in that yet. I think we're a little far away from making that decision. But while we're there, I know this is a conversation about downtown, but I'd be remiss if I didn't add channel side in there. Because we have too much money in that, we can't do anything with it, and we're bound to the idea of, oh, if we give up this money, it can go to the county. Now, you and I have talked about something I'd like to see, and I would love to see if the money that the county could give, that we would be giving back to the county, that they'd be willing to give to us in kind to fix some streets they own. And, you know, to try to balance that out. I know that's a longer possible conversation, and that the county can be a little more reticent to have those types of conversations, but I think we need to think outside the box when it comes to what we can do to free up some of that channel side money, because if not, that's the one I'm going to be focused on sunsetting before doing anything with the Downtown CRA.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about sunsetting CRAs, creating new ones, trying to deal with the county about how their portion of the tip contribution that they're making to a current CRA, now, those are more long involved conversations and negotiations that may take some time. I can't tell you, but we'd have to sit down with county staff, report to you all, they would be reporting to their board, and it would just take some time to kind of work through it.
And then one more question for Miss Moody. If we wanted to sit down, and it sounds like we all kind of have some ideas about proposed projects and what we would like to see going forward, what is a good process for us to do that? That would be a little more, obviously we need to focus on that. We need to probably have an agenda item, but how would that look? How do you see that looking?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So the way that I would approach it is to work one-on-one with all of you to really determine your priorities, the projects that you'd like to see in downtown now and in the future, develop an updated priority list that has the CAC recommendations as well as the CRA board, and then engage with this community redevelopment plan consultant and have him and I meet with each one of you one-on-one so we can include you in the process of the update. So it's a perfect time. The scope of work has just started. It's looking like it'll be complete in April. So I think we need to refine our proposed projects list. We have the CAC really working with the board, and then let's engage with the consultant so then they can fold that into the plan. We can get some true cost estimates, and then we'll know, bottom line numbers that we'll be looking at, and then we can work a timeline for, doing the legal interlocal agreement and those changes that would take place.
Great. Do I need to make a motion to have that happen, or is that just something we can do? Yeah, so I make a motion that we follow your plan and that you meet with us and that we focus on this next step forward for changing this downtown CRA.
Okay, we have a motion and we have more discussion. Mr. Board Member Clendon, and you had a comment?
Oh, I want to have a comment. It was about channel side CRA, and I think it was intriguing what Councilwoman Herczak said about roads. Well, I don't see the county agreeing to pave our city roads, but I think maybe we could reach an interlocal agreement about having them pave their roads that are within the city, because they're not doing their job by paving their roads, and which has a great impact on the citizens of the city of Tampa. So possibly we could reach an interlocal agreement that if we were to sunset the channel side CRA, we could use that excess money to pave the damn county roads in the city.
Board Member Vieira, Board Member Carlson, then Board Member Chair Henderson.
Thank you. Man, this CRA meeting's turning PG-13 with that language. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, and I thank Councilwoman Herczak for bringing up the channel side issue. My concern with it last time was that potentially lost money, but if we can get something to address that would benefit the city through that idea, my word for me is very important. I'm not saying I'd 100% commit it, but I would certainly be more favorably disposed to it. I think that's the major concern that a lot of folks have. Again, capping downtown is cleaner. Channel side's a little bit more difficult, but if we can get something like that, I mean, gosh, that certainly makes sense to me prospectively. Thank you.
Yes.
I want to comment on this one, and then sometime, maybe after you speak, Madam Chair, I'd like to make another motion regarding moving the legal process forward. This process is good because we need to figure out what we need to keep in that will help inform the number. We talked about the county, I think everybody knows, but so the public knows, the only county match that's left in downtown is that first line up there on that chart. The rest of it, the county opted out years ago. So in the case of downtown, there's no county match. We don't have to worry about it. The county commissioners I've spoken to are supportive of us putting a cap on this. And so you all know the county commissioners too. You can go talk to them and try to get their support. If they vote for it, it's supportive. They're trying to do things that are showing that they're fiscally responsible as well. In regard to Channel District, same thing. I encourage you all to have conversations with the county commissioners, but also please spend some time with stakeholders. There are a lot of sensitivities there. You all who were here before, remember I brought up this issue and made a motion 3 years ago, and I got hammered in the media and with certain stakeholders. I've since been meeting with many of those stakeholders, and some of them are okay giving up a little, like 20 or 30%. Some of them want to give up zero. And to avoid a big political discussion like the kind we've had in the last week, I recommend that you all talk to the stakeholders and see if they would be willing to give anything up. My proposal, if we had to do it today, would be to take 20%, but there are some powerful people who are against that. So I'm continuing to have conversations. Hopefully you will too. Yeah, that's it on this. Thank you.
All right, anyone else before I say something? Thank you, it's my turn. I'm not used to being last, but that's okay. The first thing that I want to say is that housing downtown is an important issue because we don't decide where the housing should be and if it's affordable. People want to live downtown and they want it to be affordable. And we have to be the voice for them. So I wouldn't be so drastic as to move money so fast, especially when I look at our commitments, these amazing commitments that we've made in the amount of $116 million. There may be other people coming to ask. And so I'm more in favor of maybe reducing it in increments, but providing the opportunity for other organizations that may come and say, hey, what about us? Because we've been so generous with our commitments in regards to the ones that are already listed, because the money is there. So that's the housing piece. And then there was something else that I wanted to add, but Charlie, you're throwing me out because I can hear you. The interlocal agreement, and maybe this is just a question for you, working with the county, how much power do they have in making this decision to say, we're going to give you, if we say we want to, sunset this downtown CRA, how much power do they have in saying, well, this is what you can do with it? Well, could they give it back to us to give to the general funds?
I would say in this case that really it's more a formality than really a substantive issue. They do not contribute any part of the increment to the downtown CRA for the exception on a project-by-project basis, and they elected to contribute 50% of the cost of the contribution from infrastructure improvements being made by SPP in Water Street, the first line item of commitments. So I don't see this being a major issue. Okay. I do think as a technicality, we ought to amend that to allow us the flexibility of reducing it. I think that if I were the county, my only concern would be to make sure that the CRA had sufficient funding so that the city could meet the county's match relative to that one project. That would be my one concern if I were the county in that.
Well, I would say maximizing the affordability, affordable housing in downtown, maximizing that as much as possible is something that I'm in favor of, and maybe in increments reducing it, but not being so drastic at the top end. Let's look at it year after year. is one of the things that I would consider, because even the smaller projects, seeing the big commitments, and then I'm looking at the smaller projects, these are the little fish. And the person, historic streetcar, 1.2 million, that's a small ask compared to the things that we've committed to. And I would hate to eliminate small projects that could improve the downtown, area, because we've been so generous with our larger assets in the community, the downtown community. So we do have a motion. Is there a further discussion? Can you repeat the motion, Council Board Member Hurtak, so that we can focus on the exact motion that was presented by you and seconded by Board Member Carlson?
Yes, it was to follow Director Moody's plan to reach out to all of us to find out our priorities, to meld them with the CAC's priorities, and then to come back with the person who's leading the CRP and further refine our priorities so we can move this forward.
Okay. Clerk Soto, did you get that? Is there any further discussion on this? We have a motion on the floor by Board Member Hurtak, second by Board Member Carlson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Yes, Board Member Carlson.
So a couple things. Keep in mind that even though there may be CRAs in other areas, those areas are also subsidizing downtown. And so as much as South Tampa, New Tampa are heavily subsidizing it, East Tampa, West Tampa are subsidizing it too, because, and I think everybody understands it. So I think we have to be good custodians. I think I said this earlier, but I also agree that we should have some affordable housing downtown. The thing is, if we're looking at this from a policy or even a business point of view, if we have to create, let's just use the number 50,000 units, what's the fastest, cheapest, most cost-effective way to create 50,000 units? And if we had $10 billion, I would say, let's build a lot downtown. But if we can disperse them throughout the city and do it in a cost-effective way, the thing is, we need 50,000 units now, and we can't even do that in the next 10 years. So anyway, the other thing is that I just did a rough calculation. If you take 117, rounding that up, and that's the current commitments, plus the 330 in just the next 10 years, and then take half of that. So Morris said the maximum we could take is half. If we took half of that, that would be, my math is 223. So that would leave, just in the next 10 years, that would leave 107 million extra dollars that we can do whatever we want with in the next 10 years. And if you wanted to leave in more, we could do that. But at 50%, which is the max, we would still have we would still have 107 million extra dollars. But that's not including the 10 years after that. The 10 years after that, we would have another 450 million at least. So, because nothing is committed after that. So we've got 107 million for the next 10 years, and then we've got 450 to 600 million plus for the next 10 years after that. Half of that would, if we took half of it, it would only be 223 million, or 300 million if it was 600. Anyway, what I would propose, just to get the ball moving on this, is that we ask staff to come back with the draft documents, and I would suggest that we put 50% as a placeholder, and then when they come back with the draft documents, we can change it to 60 or 30 or 40 or whatever you want. But I would like to make a motion to ask CRA staff to return on November 9th with draft documents to put a 50% cap on the downtown CRA.
I'll second that for discussion. And I appreciate that, and I think you did it the right way at the end when you talk about 50% of something. Never use the same numbers because it's based on the economy. And if something goes tanking down, you're not going to get what you asked for. You have to do it all over again. So just saying 50% of something was there, I think it's the right way of doing it.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I would like to see it in two different increments. I would like to see it at 25% and 50%, just so that we can, would you be good with that?
25% or
25% and 50, so we can have a comparison in terms of the reduction is something that I would be in favor of.
Yeah, we can provide different scenarios, with
Or,
percentages.
what did you say, like, the opposite may have 75 is?
Yeah.
Yeah, not 25, 75. Board Member Hurtak.
Thank you. I disagree with making this motion until we have decided our priorities and really done this plan. I mean, we already have a plan going on, a CRP, because for me, I cannot visualize what projects I want. And for me to even consider 50% is really scary to me, because this is very conceptual, this map, but looking at our priorities, not this priority list that was created, it doesn't mean that we have to wait for a really long time, but I would like to at least see our priorities and not someone else's priorities when making this decision. So we can talk about it, but I don't think anything's gonna change by November. We're not gonna have enough done. And quite frankly, while I do believe that we can reduce it, automatically and just saying we're going to reduce it before knowing what we want to fund, I think is fiscally irresponsible.
Board Member Carlson, I'm sorry. You've already spoken. Board Member Clendon and Board Member Carlson.
Hear, Councilwoman Hurtak, and you've heard me say this from the dais before, let's not make decisions until we have all the facts. And I think until we get the power, and again, this is not something that has to be done, and I support the concept. I just want to make sure you're clear. I absolutely support the concept, but I want to make sure that we're making, and I don't also want to waste staff's time going through all this exercise and then us not having, what the actual goals are going to be. So I think in a prudent fashion, we should move forward and identifying the priorities, know what our projected actual cost would be. I mean, obviously, by looking at this, 2030 is a golden year. But I think we need to be prudent, waiting for this process to play out. We've already asked to be involved, and the director is going to seek our input on priorities, and we can have the group discussion once that's done and you compile that document, and then we can move forward with all of the information.
Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, the reason why I suggested it for November is that we're going to have the discussion in October, and we're going to have discussions with staff before then. The next meeting after that is December 14th, and I can change it for that. But the thing is that it takes staff 2 or 3 months to do something. So if we wait till October or November, then we're not going to get it till January, February. And all I'm asking for is a draft. I'm not asking for us to bring it back for a vote. I just want a draft so we can see what it would look like, because we're going to have questions about that. So whenever, let's say we look at the draft on November 9th, at that point we can edit the documents however we want. We can change the percentage. We can delay it. But at some point, even if we like the documents November 9th, we've got to set a date for it to come back, which will be at least another month. If we think we need more time, we can say January, February. But at least this will be moving in process and will give legal time to do it. Otherwise, we'll end up in first or second quarter next year.
Attorney Massey.
Couple things. By the November CRA meeting, one suggestion I would have is I'm happy to go to the county to see if they would be willing to clarify the interlocal to give us flexibility to lower our percentage contribution to any of the trust funds down to 50% at our discretion. So it's not something we have to worry about. Then you can decide anywhere between 100% and 50%. So I'm happy to go forward with that and try to see what I can and report back to council or to the board at the November meeting if we can get that clarification done fairly quickly with the county. That would, I think, speed the process along further. And the actual amendment to the ordinance, won't take that long to draft once you all figure out what the percentage is. I could perhaps have a form document in November if that's what you all wanted. But until you're ready to kind of figure out how you want to lower that, and we make sure we don't have any other legal hurdles with the county, then really we can't really move forward with that. So.
Board Member Carlson, are you agreeable to that as it relates to your motion?
Well, what I propose based on what two of you said is that I add at the end, the motion was to ask CRA staff to return on November 9th with a draft documents to put a 50% cap on the Downtown CRA. and I added based on what you said, Madam Chair, and to provide scenarios for 25% or other percentages.
75, I'm sorry. That's,
You want to go less, right?
no, 75%. I was thinking the math, I was doing it the opposite way.
Oh, we can't go, we can only go 50%.
50 just,
And for.
Go
It
up.
goes the other way.
Yeah, it's-
So it starts at 100.
Yeah, so
and can go to
75 and then 50.
So that's why it's 75.
Okay, I
Yeah,
see.
thank you.
And then I also added, and for Attorney Massey to report on the county's response.
yeah, okay. Board Member Hurtak.
Thank you. And again, my only concern is that I heard from Director Moody that April is when, and we don't have to wait till the end of this CRP process, but I would like to have a tad more agreement. And if Mr. Massey says he can, I love the idea of reaching out to the county and seeing if they're amenable, and then, you know, just having draft documents available when we're ready. I think that this is something that at best we could probably do in January. I mean, I think we're all agreeable on reducing the amount. I just think we need to have priorities first.
And if we approve the draft, we can schedule it for January, the follow-up. Right, anyway.
Anyone on this end? Board Member Vieira.
Yeah, just to explain my vote, I'm going to support this because I just said that I want to get the ball rolling as soon as possible, and this does it. And it's flexible, that if additional information comes, it can be moved. The date can be moved, but it gets the ball rolling, so that's why I'll do it. This is something that we could have done, or we should have done for a long, long time. I know Councilman Carlson's been pushing for a while, and let's get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Question.
Board Member Clendon, and
How time-consuming for staff do you
That was-
anticipate this being?
We appreciate that question. Yes, it's very busy with the restructure. I'm, holding over the downtowns until we get an interim that we're looking for. We could definitely strive for November, and I would also like to bring back our proposed list with the board and have the conversation concurrently with the draft documents, legal advice, and then also meet with the community redevelopment plan consultant and start building that list. We can strive for it, but of course it will be time consuming.
So, yeah, and that was my question too, because, we also have to, we got this CRP and community involvement. We need to get input from them as well. We can't just operate in a vacuum. So, I mean, wouldn't this be wiser to give us a few months? Because this is not, this is a problem that's taken decades to get to. Can't we just give a few more months so that we can, I agree with the principle, but I think if we could just get a few months in here so we have some time.
Can you guys support December 14th? Because this is just a draft, and then we have to
Yes,
come back.
but if that's enough time for Ms. Moody to,
December or January would be ideal.
I can support that.
Yeah, I can support that as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I changed it to December 14th.
Second again.
okay, we have a,
Thank you.
And again and again.
yeah, okay. Any other discussion on this matter? Okay, and look, we even collaborated with staff to get to this point, so.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like we have a great path moving forward and it's clearly lined out, so feel good about that. All right, we'll take a
Okay,
break.
I know we're on a time crunch. We have 45 minutes, Mr. Massey.
Yes, we are trying to, it's 11:11 too, so
Mr.
we'll
Massey has
use
to
that
leave
as a
at
good
at
sign.
noon. Go ahead.
All right, are we ready to jump into the next item? It is item number 8
Yep.
to talk about the Riverwalk extension motion. There is a motion that the CRA staff work with the Channel District CAC, the Tampa Port Authority, and other
talking about
stakeholders.
Seven.
Oh, I apologize, it is
Yeah.
7.
It's okay.
That we work with stakeholders to look into the feasibility of extending the Riverwalk from the aquarium to Adamo Drive, bisecting the land between Channelside Drive and the water, and to define any possible role for the CRA. So we are engaging with the stakeholders on this. Board Member Carlson, did you have a comment? That you
I just want to help set it up, but
Okay.
would you like me to say something, you want to keep going?
I'll set it up and then you can.
Okay.
You can.
Thank you.
emphasize it. Okay, so what we did was we started engaging with the stakeholders. A majority of the land is owned by the Tampa Port Authority and the city of Tampa, so it's important that we communicate with them to see if they would be amenable to extending the Riverwalk from the aquarium to Adamo Drive. So we want to make this clear that there are a couple different sections being looked at to extend the Riverwalk. Beneficial Bridge is one. The Downtown and Channelside CRA is currently looking into a design for Beneficial Bridge to bring the Riverwalk from the Tampa Museum to over Beneficial Bridge heading towards Sparkman Wharf. There is a working study group that is with the Port Authority, and they are looking into picking it up from Beneficial Bridge and bringing it to the aquarium, and that passes Terminal 2. So they're looking at the logistics of bringing the Riverwalk past the port, trying to keep it by the water, or bring it around the water to the aquarium. So this motion is completely different from those efforts, and this is really looking at picking it up from the aquarium all the way to Adamo Drive. So we are engaging on the whole linear connectivity of it. There is a working study group that did publish some conceptual renderings. We're following that closely so then we can see where the route would lead and then where we would pick it up and bring it to. So it's still early in the discussion, engaging with the stakeholders. So what we've done today is map out the route that we would like to look at to bring it from the aquarium to Adamo, and then we can move forward with the discussions and the stakeholder and see how the CRA can support it. Board Member
No,
Carlson.
go ahead. You're doing perfect.
Okay, I set it up all right. So with that, I'm not sure if everyone's had a chance to see the concepts that were rolled out. There were 4 different concepts. Great, to bring it all the way to the aquarium. If you'd like more information on that, I'd be happy to provide it. But for today, we wanted to just share. I'm missing a 7 tab, which is why I missed 7. We wanted to share the route, and this is really preliminary, and we're bringing this to stakeholders and showing them, where we would like to, potentially expand the Riverwalk, and really ties into the connectivity goal of connecting all of the different gray areas in Tampa, and we can all get there by foot. I walk the Riverwalk every weekend, run it, and walk my dog, and I will be a user of this. I have not used the Elmo yet. So just one moment. Okay, great. Expand it out a bit. Expanding it out. Expanding it in.
The other
out.
Yeah, there you go, right there. Perfect.
All right, I'll become a pro. So this map shows you the 3 different sections that we're looking at. So just wanted to conceptualize it, make sure we're in the right location, and then we can have conversations on what it takes to make it happen. You'll see Beneficial Bridge is number 1 down here. Green line, it's good to go, it's in design. Over in the area 2, that's where you have the Sparkman Wharf, Terminal 2, to the aquarium. And then the red line, section number 3, this is the aquarium. It passes by a Terminal 3 and then brings you towards Adamo Drive and the Ybor Harbor there. So you have Channelside Drive as the main street going down, and then you have the water side. So this route specifically bisects it between the water, so you can still have port activities, and then as the area continues to grow and develop, that will have a pedestrian route throughout it. So just wanted to share this route, make sure this is where the direction that the board wants to go, and then staff will continue to work with the stakeholders and provide regular updates on how to make that happen and what the cost would look like. Yeah, so I'll pause there for discussion. That's pretty much where we are at.
Board Member Carlson.
There's a lot of debate and discussion, as she said, about the route that would go around Sparkman Wharf and the aquarium. And as you see, we didn't address that at all. The idea is that we would just pick that up. And so that's a separate issue. The interest here, I've talked to a lot of the major stakeholders, and Erica's talked to some of them, but the idea is that there's 1 or 2 people that want to put the Riverwalk on the water to the right. What that would mean is it would shut down the maritime access. The cruise terminals and the other activities cannot operate with that as it is. The maritime industry doesn't want it anywhere near the water. They want it along Channelside Drive. You know that pedestrian advocates and bicycle advocates would rather have it blocked in instead of right next to a road. There are people that want to develop that property along there. The property to the left there is the parking lot for the aquarium. Originally that and the cruise terminal area were the aquarium owned property, but in the late 90s when the city took over the aquarium, they took over the property and they sold the part to the right. Way before that, if you go way back, all of this was maritime area. The problem with the maritime community is that we only have 3. We're out of land. We're out of maritime land. We don't have anywhere to grow. There was a big conference on this just 2 days ago where 200 or more people came together from the maritime community. They're very concerned about giving away their access to deep water channels. We only have 3 deep water channels that we need to protect. If we allow the Riverwalk to go along the water, it could be a disaster for the maritime industry. And we know we're going to need more instead of less. I was just.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just in. I mentioned this before. I was just in Istanbul. Istanbul does this exactly the same way that I'm talking about. They have a Riverwalk. If they can put it next to the water, they do, which we've done at most of the Riverwalk already. But where they protect their maritime industry. When the cruises are not in, you'll be able to see the water. When they are in, you'll be able to see the cruise ship. I'm not proposing developing any of the land there. That's another discussion for another day. But for the people who want to develop, it protects the land there to the left. But for the maritime people, it connects the land to the right. So this is a compromise which has worked well in other cities. What I suggest going forward is that, and I can make a motion on this later, but what I would suggest going forward is that staff spend the next month or 2 talking to the CAC and other stakeholders, that the staff would spend the next month or 2 talking to CAC and stakeholders and come back to us. This is a concept that Erica drew on her computer, so this is not an official engineering rendering or anything like that.
Yeah, it's blurry.
It's just a rough concept to be able to show people to get feedback on it. And so we're not making any decision to go forward. We don't even know if we could afford to pay for it, but we're just taking initiative, trying to provide an alternative that balances the interests of everyone. And if Erica and her team can take it out of the community, they can tell us how long they need, and then we can make a motion to bring it back and have them report back to us.
Board Member Hurtak, Board Member Clendenin.
Thank you so much. And I actually love this concept too, and I had written down the very same thing. You put a pretty fence. When you travel internationally and you see major ports, this is pretty much what they do. And to be honest, not being on the water for the whole thing, it's fine. I mean, we have a Riverwalk that's mostly along the water. I love ships. I have a fascination with them, so I have no problem looking at cool ships when I'm walking or running as well. And one of the things I like best about this, I am concerned about the little stretch by the former banana docks, only because that's very narrow. And I don't know if there's like some easements we can get to make that space better, because right now there's a sidewalk there that has light poles in the middle of it, and then the streetcars on the other side. So it's not very navigable for pedestrians or cyclists as it is. But up at the top, actually, before you go like more horizontal, the map itself, right there under the Selman is Thea's walk path. And it would connect, actually no, up right there, right there is where it starts. And you can actually, before you get to that corner, the connectivity is right there, and you can go to the right. Now, it doesn't go very far, but, you know, that's something I know that we're working on. Mm-hmm. But that would be a really wonderful connectivity to get to all sorts of different continuous path to get. I believe that you can get to, like, McKay Bay through there, all sorts of things. So this is a huge part of connecting downtown to Ybor and beyond, for folks who want to use it recreationally or even as a path for bikes to get to downtown for work. So I think this is wonderful. I think that having a trail that goes through somewhat of our industrial kind of port area will give a nice highlight to the fact that we're a port city. I mean, we don't think about that, and I think that kind of grittiness is, I mean, dare I say, it's a little sexy, but it's just a very, you know, like that gritty part where, you know, we're a city that's really working, and this, you know, we have all this stuff going on. We have a port, and we have high rises, and we have the aquarium, and you know, we're kind of all things to all people, and I really love this compromise, and I think that we could probably get this done before Section 2. Just gonna throw that out there.
So nothing says sexy like a chlorine tank.
Yes.
A question, Mr. Carlson or someone. It depends if you're part of the Ybor Mafia. Councilman Carlson, question. You alluded to, and this is my ignorance, forgive me for living here for so long and not knowing this, but in these parcels, so we started with the Florida Aquarium and moved north. Can you highlight who owns those properties now?
Morris may have been involved in the deals, but that whole section where number 3 is, a long time ago, all that was maritime. But then in I think it was Freeman administration, the aquarium bought it. And if I remember correctly, for disclosure, my colleague.
Excuse me, you want it projected on the big TV?
Yeah, so that people who are following
CCTV, can
along.
you project it on the big television for the public, please?
And I can tell you a few things, but it's kind of off the top of my head, that the aquarium parking, first of all, the aquarium is on land owned by the city, so the city owns.
The dirt.
The dirt, and it owns the parking lot that serves the aquarium.
So that entire north-south segment that's.
So can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just waiting for if I could, and then maybe you could fill in. That whole section where number 3 is and the aquarium parking lot, you know, years ago that was maritime, but during the Freeman administration, the aquarium, which was a private entity, bought all of that land. And then, and for disclosure, one of my colleagues was one of the founders of the aquarium. Then in the late 90s, because of the business model they picked, they couldn't pay the debt. And so somewhere around late 90s, the city took it over, and that included all that land there. So then the city, I think the aquarium paid like $4 million for that whole section, and then the city turned around and sold the eastern part of it for $20 million to the port.
So the section with a 3 on it that runs along the water.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that the city did not use that money to retire the debt for the aquarium. Instead, the aquarium has had their debt extended, so that's a whole other issue. The part to the north. So the part to the east there, number 3, is controlled by the Port Authority. The part to the west is, as Morris said, owned by the city, but leased to the aquarium. And they had always thought that would be their expansion area and also the parking lot. What's happening with the other part of the Riverwalk proposal is that some people think that the port should give up Terminal 2, which is adjacent to the aquarium, and let the aquarium expand there. But that would be a disastrous thing for the economy. And then the idea was the aquarium would move there and they would develop. The aquarium has had different discussions over the years, but the idea is that eventually something may be developed in that parking lot, but the aquarium needs their parking spaces still to survive, and they need an area to expand. The parts to the north are controlled by the Port Authority, and then if you get past that little inlet, the little water inlet, that whole area is international ship repair, which is a huge economic engine for our area. It's a strategic business
that's
for our
gone now.
region.
That's gone now, right?
And about 15 years ago, it was rezoned. Daryl Shaw now has a contract on it, and I think they're going to be coming back to us some point in the future to look at it again. But that was already zoned a long, long time ago to something else besides maritime. And so the port, once that was rezoned, the port could not afford to buy the property back. It was too valuable. So let's say that part eventually develops into other sources. What we need to do is figure out how to protect everything to the east, because there are strategic industries that are important for our area. We need to make sure we protect the maritime area. And so this compromise, what it does is it goes through between port and city territory. The northern part there, as I said, is port, and then it connects to Daryl's property, which is one of the main goals of everybody, to make sure there's a contiguous link between all that's happening in Ybor and Channel Side, going all the way around to Tampa Heights.
So why would you want to bifurcate the port-owned property north of York? Oh, I thought I still had it when he was answering my question.
Okay, go ahead.
Why would you want to bifurcate the port property north of York Street? I mean, I get that we're bifurcating because it links the aquarium and then between the aquarium-owned property or the city-owned property and the port on that southern section. But why wouldn't you continue up to Channel Sides to allow the port to have full utilization of the property between Channel Side Drive and the water?
That, if you look at the red line there, this is a blurry photo, but to the left is the port office building.
Office, yes.
Which has been slated for redevelopment. It's only 20, 30 years old, but it's been slated for redevelopment at some point. The red line that Erica drew, this is just an arbitrary line to get feedback, but it runs right through their parking lot.
Right.
So most likely they would have us move it to the east a little bit. And I've talked to the port, their board has to ultimately vote, but the staff does not object to some variation. But the point here is at least we have something on a map that people can give input to, and the port will tell us what they like and don't like, and all the other stakeholders will tell us as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate the education.
The maritime community, though, is very, very concerned about the Riverwalk going on the water because it will destroy a huge economic engine. We're already going to lose international ship repair. They may be relocated, hopefully they will, but we're out of land beyond that, so we need to protect whatever maritime land we have.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that location is great for a Walmart. I'm joking.
Hey, I'm the funny one.
Motion to censor Councilman Vieira.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank Councilmember Carlson for bringing this up. This is huge, you know, should it come to fruition, which I think it will, and I see how this makes sense, and I understand the concerns of other stakeholders, and I want to apologize, there was some chatter while you were talking, and we were just saying who owns the aquarium and who, just to clarify, I didn't mean to be disruptive, but this is, you know, we see how impactful the Riverwalk has been and how popular it has been. I remember when my mother saw it, my mom stopped coming downtown decades ago, because downtown, you know, after the 1970s, it changed. And I brought her down here for a Mother's Day weekend. We had brunch, whatever, and she saw the Riverwalk for the first time after we did like the Kennedy expansion and further. And she's like, wow, what a way to introduce people or welcome people to Tampa when they come and visit. So the further extension of this going into Gasworks, Ybor City, the growth in Water Street and downtown, it's gonna be, it is a jewel, and it's just gonna further expand there, while also respecting, you know, maritime properties and the port and everything, so we can all work together, but at the same time continue investing in our community. I think this is really great, and I look forward to, you know, I know it's not easy. I saw an article somewhere. It's not as easy as you think expanding the Riverwalk, but I think we can get there, and it'll continue being a benefit to the community.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, and item number 8 is continued to December 14th.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I would, what date do you think would make sense to come back from community involvement?
Thank you for asking. I'm mapping it out. I think I really want to get the interim involved in this once we get the CRA manager for downtown. If December was acceptable to you, I'd like to come back in December after we speak with the stakeholders, get the buy-in.
You think that's enough time?
I do. And then if not, we can talk, and then we can map out next steps to get to actual conceptual drawings that are better than my attempt.
And this is just to get feedback from the public, not to propose our involvement yet. But I would like to motion to ask CRA staff to return on December 14th to present community and CAC feedback on the proposed Riverwalk extension from the aquarium to Adamo Drive.
Thank you very much, sir. We have a motion by Board Member Carlson, seconded by Board Member Hurtak. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Yes, sir. Anybody else, any other thoughts or discussions on item number 8? Or 7, excuse me. Okay, moving forward, we have item number 8. May I have a motion to please continue that to December 14th? We have a motion by Board Member Maniscalco, seconded by Board Member Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Number 9, please, if you don't mind. Oh, pardon me. Okay. So number 11, CRA board members to spend 1 hour to discuss transportation options.
Hello. Well, I had intended to actually continue this item, but after getting some new information from Mobility, I decided to have a brief discussion, and hopefully this will go brief, because I think everybody here is in support of. Proposed, we've had a longstanding proposal to extend the Tampa streetcar system from its existing terminus in downtown Tampa, up Florida Avenue, and then back down Tampa. Initially, the proposal was to turn at Palm. I've been in many discussions with Hart and other citizen advisory groups and stakeholders that it makes more sense to go all the way up to Amelia right before Columbus, because Hart uses Columbus as an east-west connector, and it turns it into a true transportation option. This is something I think will be, it really is a watershed moment for downtown, and we talk about transit and people moving from point A to point B. When we act as a city council and a land use board, we're continuously approving projects that are density in these areas, Tampa Heights and downtown. We are reducing parking minimums, but we're missing this transportation mode. In conversations with Vic from Mobility, they are actually ready to go and do this if they got the commitment from the CRA. What they need right now is a commitment for $5 million to complete the design elements of this. But forewarn the long-term, and oh, by the way, the matching funds still exist, but they'll be up for renewal next summer. But we either have to start using it or we run the risk of losing them, which I think would be malfeasance. But we start this project, we'll be able to continue and secure them. The matching funds, by the way, are inflation-proof. They grows with inflation, so we don't have to worry about that as well. So we're in good shape with that. But right now, we need a commitment from the CRA to commit $5 million for the beginning of the design and build of this project. Longer term, spread over multiple years, we're going to come back to the CRA. It's going to be cumulatively, the local match would be $45 million cumulatively, to be able to build a streetcar system to extend from the southern part of downtown all the way through downtown, north downtown, Tampa Heights, damn near into West Tampa, to be able to connectivity for West Tampa, because we're getting close to the projects that we're constructing along the riverway up there, and all of these great ideas that are being bantered about. And right now, like I said, right now we need a commitment for $5 million. So I'd like to make a motion that this CRA board approve $5 million to support the design build and move forward with the streetcar.
Okay, we have comments by Board Member Maniscalco, and then we'll address comments on your motion. And Board Member Hurtak, Board Member Maniscalco, Board Member Hurtak.
You would need to extend it to Martin Luther King and Havana or McDill to accommodate us. If not, no. But no, in all seriousness,
you can get on your scooter.
Yes, we'll scooter down. No, in all seriousness, I want to thank you for championing this. You talked about it during the campaign. You've talked about it since day one here. I totally support the streetcar extension. I use it a lot. I've used it a lot. I'm on the streetcar board. I have the honor of being there. When the streetcar was taken up in 1946, and that's a super long discussion, we lost a big opportunity, and that was post-World War II, and it was focusing on road and interstate construction, which came in the 50s and later on, and divided communities and destroyed a lot. And the focus is on automobiles. And we pulled up, not just suspended the streetcar service, but they pulled up the track over the next few decades, which to me gave the message of we want to make sure that nobody ever comes back to this in the future. Not just pave over the streetcar tracks, it's pull them up to make sure that we don't revisit this. But it looks like we're coming full circle. The streetcar was initiated in the late 1800s. I give a lot of credit to Hugh McFarland, former city attorney from 1890. I know we're going way back, and the father of West Tampa, one of the founding fathers, in connecting through the Fortune Street Bridge, now the Madam Fortune Taylor Bridge, connecting West Tampa and downtown with that streetcar, with the connection. However, I go into this history thing. We see the density, the growth in residential in downtown. We see what's happening in the Channel area, in the Channel District, and Water Street, and we see the renaissance of Tampa Heights. We see the renaissance of so many communities that this would be such a benefit to the community, such a wise investment, in my opinion, where you're taking the streetcar up You said to Amelia, so you're approaching Columbus Drive.
Yeah, right, the street right before Columbus.
Yes.
The street right before Columbus, and why you don't go all the way, because Columbus is much more complicated.
Yes.
But you've got space there, and there's actually real estate there we could use as a connectivity point
Yeah.
to an east-west corridor that runs along Columbus, which would get into East Tampa, which could go all the way to the airport.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of, Columbus has a lot of east-west connectivity.
There is a lot of connectivity.
And that's in Hart's long-range plan.
And you have the, you know, the traffic volume on Tampa and Florida. Those are my corridors. I stay off the interstate. I like to use Tampa Street, Martin Luther King, Florida Avenue, Hillsborough Avenue, and then, you know, my other shortcuts. But I think this is a worthy investment. This is long overdue. I know that a gentleman that will be coming here later this afternoon brought back the streetcar, you know, 2 decades ago. It was a lot cheaper then. I know Mayor Iorio expanded it to, Whiting Station, and it was $10 million to go 4 blocks, or $20 million for something like that. It was nothing compared to the cost today. But I know Councilmember Miranda made the second on the motion. I am totally in support. I think as we invest in transit, this is a very worthy investment. Again, the density along those corridors and the continued densities that's going to come, and the ridership numbers. I know we've had no fares due to grants on the streetcar now, but I think that has allowed us to spark further interest in the streetcar from people that are using it, and we see ridership numbers going up and up and up, and they're going to continue up, and very good. I'm glad to support it.
Board Member Hurtak.
Let me just, the one thing I would like to warn you all, if this moves, that's fine, but we need to watch how we spend the money. We cannot spend CRA dollars outside the boundaries of the CRA, and so that is the one limitation we would have to look at. If we may be able to spend some of the bulk of it could be maybe paid by the CRA, but part of, I'm not sure we can spend all of the CRA dollars.
Well, right now, the $5 million downtown.
That's what I'm going to be talking about. Thank you. And I actually wanted to talk to, I think Deputy Administrator Drumgo might be able to speak a little bit more to this, because I think it's really ironic that we're talking about capping the CRA and then, or the Downtown CRA, and now we have this giant project. It's not that I don't support it, I just found that kind of funny. I'm hoping this is rubber wheel, because we don't have the money to fund an actual expansion. And then I wanted to ask Deputy Administrator Drumgo, we have to stop this at 275. We only have a few real blocks to do that the CRA can pay for. How are we going to fund the rest of it, which is the bulk of it, to go up Florida Avenue?
Sure. So for the record, Deputy Administrator Lee Strumgo, you know, I think what you're asking is just like for the CRA to be a conduit or a catalyst to get to a greater project, right? I mean, I think that it would be a collaboration with our mobility team to try to figure out the rest of the project, to look at other funding sources. But I mean, you all are exactly right that you know that we have limitations based on the boundaries of the redevelopment areas, and so we would have to explore how to leverage those dollars. But that's what CRAs do, you know, across the state, right? They either do pilot projects or they do a portion, and then you know, the other entities come in behind it to make sure we get to an end game on the project. So it really just depends on the type of project, the value, and those are things that are real unknowns for us at this time.
Okay, and so, I mean, just to clarify, the Tampa Heights CRA does not run up there. It just doesn't. It stops around 7th. So there's very little actual that the Tampa Heights CRA could contribute. And this is my big concern after last night is I think it's great to spark it. I have no problem with it. I'm obviously very supportive of transit. And so I'm 100%, I just want to know what's next, because $5 million only gets you to 275. So is there a proposition to maybe just go to 275 initially and back down? Because we can't go any further with the dollars we have. We're not allowed to spend any money outside of 275 as our northern boundary.
Well, outside of the CRA. So
Yeah.
again, the bulk of the funding for the Tampa Heights Riverfront, it goes towards the CDD. So I would say that's 3/4 of those dollars. So there are limitations. We would need to really sit down and map out what you're asking us for, the same way we were just talking about the whole
channel district, that alignment, you know, for us, it's getting a sketch, getting a diagram of what you all are asking us for, and then evaluating how it aligns with the redevelopment areas, and then where those impacts would be, and then financially being able to see what available funds would be able to support an overall project.
Thank you. And then my only other question is, does this connect to the planned BRT?
I can't speak to that off the top of my head. I would have to talk to Vic Bede about that, our transportation director. But I would say that the intent here is to have BRT along those north-south corridors that would link up to the service areas.
If I could suggest, maybe what the CRA board may want to direct CRA staff to do is to meet with the city's mobility staff to see how the CRA can participate and move the project forward into the design stage and further. I mean, it's gonna have to be a collaboration, but we certainly can participate and be a big part of it. I think that's the.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, once we pass this one, to do that and then include Hart as well. I think, again, this is, I think, where, you, Mr. Drumgo, come into play, because you can have the CRA piece, but also the piece outside with mobility. Because this is very important, but I really want to make sure that we're not over-promising to citizens, that we can only go so far with this money, and then we obviously don't have any more money to give this project. So, yeah, what's next? So, thank you.
Absolutely, and we're here to receive direction from the board on, you know, going back and working with mobility to achieve that.
Board Member Clendenin.
Yeah, I would actually say that there are, and I still think we need to delve into exactly how we can, because this streetcar extension is going to service Ybor City, Channelside, downtown, Tampa Heights, and beyond. But it touches a lot of CRAs, the streetcar, and the citizens within those CRAs that this proposal would service. Yes, it would connect with the proposed BRT. But I think this is an important element in what comes first. We have matching funds that pays 75% of this sitting there waiting for it. It's free money, and again, I feel it would be malfeasance of us not to find the money to pay for it. I think the CRA, specifically the downtown CRA, is flush in some ways, and especially as we project out. The $5 million is for design build today, but the rest of the money I spoke about, we have to come up with the $45 million, can be amortized over a period of years. So it's not something that we have to come up with today. So that can be amortized over a period of years, and we can find, again, the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people, that amount of money that we can spend amortized over a period of years, and the return on the investment. Because I think as we have to look, you look at how transformational a couple of key elements in Channelside were. We had a mayor who was aspirational and put an aquarium in a dilapidated, what I think Charlie said, X-rated video stores and everything else that was in that area, and not the prettiest area of the city of Tampa. And we built a streetcar from Ybor City through that area, and billions and billions of dollars in investment have followed. And I think as we look at, and we have this, really, you look at downtown, we've got a lot of development on the south side of downtown. We're getting a lot of development in areas of Tampa Heights. But this is where we need to be building our density. So if we talk about smart land use, and we talk about putting people where we really want them to be and not encroaching on these traditional neighborhoods, this is the kind of infrastructure we have to support and develop so that we can have that return on the investment, because I guarantee you that we build this streetcar in the way it's envisioned, that it will return 100 or 500-fold the amount of money back into the taxpayer pockets through return on the investment, through taxpayer, through TIF, and because of the growth and development this will spur along this rail.
And I 100% agree with you. May I?
Yes, Attorney.
I 100% agree with you. I just want to make sure that we're spending the money correctly, because if it's $5 million for design build, that design build can only go up to 275. We can't use that $5 million to further the design build, and I just want to make sure that we're aware of that. And
I don't think that's absolutely written in stone.
yeah, we can only go as far as the CRA's limit.
But design build, because it services all these CRAs.
But But we're not talking about the CRAs, we're talking about the area north that is not in a CRA.
A substantial part of it is. I'm sorry, a substantial part of it is, and I believe that we can pay for the design build, we can be creative through, because again, this is impacting all the CRAs, this
Yeah,
impacts.
yes, I agree.
It's
And
providing service to Ybor, Channelside, Downtown, Tampa Heights.
And again, that's not my question. My question is, we can only use the downtown CRA funds within the borders of the downtown CRA. So my question is, if this money is going to the design build, how is that possible when this connects to other CRAs and areas that are outside the CRA? That is where I'm having a hard time. I want to make sure that we're not going to be dinged for using money outside of a CRA.
That's understood. And so I think it sounds like you would like to understand how the limitations of the boundaries impact the design build. What we can do is we've looked at percentages of studies, and we can look at a percent proportionate to what's inside the CRA. So if perhaps, once we map out the area that we would like to study, we could say that 70% of this particular design build is within the redevelopment area boundaries. And then from there, we can figure out what portion proportionate to that amount each CRA would pay. And we could look at outside funding sources to pay for the gap. And that could either come through mobility or some other grant funding sources. So we don't necessarily have to expend all those CRA dollars to get to that ultimate design concept. But you are accurate, and so we would want to make sure that any gap is covered by another funding source.
Thank you very much. That's really just, I wanted to make sure, I 100% support this, but I don't want people to believe that this is like now, we're gonna have a full design build with this 5 million, because it can only be used within the downtown CRA.
It can be a joint scope. It can be
Yeah.
a joint scope and a joint project to go out and do it. But again, we just need that direction as to what the board would like to see us do.
Thank you.
Board Member Carlson, Board Member Vieira.
Elise, thank you for thinking it through that. In terms of the percentage, I don't have a map in front of me, but let's say the length is, if you do percentage by length, it might be that this is only 30% within that boundary. But if you did it by cost, I bet it's 70%. And so can you all just look at it in different ways to figure out the percentage? Because if you did it based on percentage cost of the eventual project, it might be that you could get a bigger percentage of it paid by the CRA. The other thing I wanted to let the public know, this is not something that my colleague has just dropped on us. The $5 million number is new, but this discussion about participating some small extension of the streetcar is something we've been talking about for several years. So I thank him for bringing this forward, but I don't want the public to think that, especially after the discussion last night, that we're just suddenly throwing money around when last night we were talking about cutting costs. Also, there are some people that are opposed to extending the streetcar, and they think it's a waste of money. To those folks, I would just say this is paying for planning and concepting. It's not paying for the infrastructure yet. So it's just taking it forward to look at it again. For folks who may think, why are you spending this $5 million instead of paving my roads? This is the problem we were talking about earlier, that this money is trapped inside the CRAs. If we could move it out, we might make a different choice. There are several things that are on that, maybe most of the things that were on that capital list before. Had we been able to move the money out, I wouldn't have voted for some of those or all of them. So I think, the 5 priorities we have in the city are the things we talked about last night, but this is the CRA, not the city, and we can only use the money within those areas. Board Member Hurtak mentioned rubber wheel. If we do rubber wheel, I think we at least need to acquire the right-of-way and do it in a dedicated lane. That maybe is a huge part of the cost anyway, but we need to go ahead and reserve the spot. Every city tells us that if they could go back in time, they would buy property, and however expensive it is, it's going to be more expensive in the future. And if we ended up putting BRT or something else there, we need a dedicated lane. Last thing is that when the Undersecretary of USDOT was here a few months ago, I spent a little bit of time with him, and he said they're very eager to fund projects in Tampa, and so we need to make sure that we move as fast as we can while there's friendly administrators there that can potentially fund projects like this, because we might not have to fund them all ourselves. Thank you.
Board Member Vieira.
Thank you very much. I again wanted to salute Councilman Clendenin for this. I was talking to a new elected official, relatively new, a few days ago, and I was saying my advice is always to, as an elected official, pick 4, 5, 6 issues that you feel very passionate about and hit them hard. And it's obvious, Councilman Clendenin, that this is something that you're very passionate about, mass transit. I remember having people talk to me about this, the recent budget proposed by the administration and wishing it had more mass transit, particularly for streetcar and issues like that. So it's good to see that this addresses that. That's something that's very, very important. And with Councilman Carlson mentioned the issue of grants from the federal government. Right now, they are very friendly. One of the big challenges I hear in talking to folks on the federal level, including my capacity as the HART Board Chair, is that we don't have the funds for matching grants. And obviously we're very undermined because of $500 million that's sitting up in Tallahassee right now, and then our capacity to be able to build on that through a tax that can't seem to get through. So, with that, we could leap mountains in Tampa and Hillsborough County. With that, we'll have to do with much less, and we can't take that money and turn that single into a triple. Unfortunately, we're struggling just to get to first base right now. Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
I got to respond to
Sure, Board Member Clendenin.
So on the right-of-way, actually, I have good news. FDOT has already got right-of-way on Florida. They're actually moving forward with building those dedicated lines, but I think this is why it's so critical to have this discussion today and moving forward, because as they move forward, what we don't want them to do is kind of like what we had with stormwater and street paving. You don't want to build something and then have to go back and retrofit it because the vaults and everything else that is required for streetcar. So as we build these, we want to make sure that it all works in sync with what FDOT's already currently doing, and that's on the Florida portion of this corridor. I guess I'll leave it at that. I think it's important. We're going to have a good return on the investment, and this is one of those things. If we had a chance to buy Apple stock 20 years ago, we all would have, and I think this is the same thing. There's never a great time, but this is the right time.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Board Member Clendenin, seconded by Board Member Miranda. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board Member Hurtek.
Thank you. I just wanted to do my follow-up motion for Mr. Drumgo to come back and explain how we're gonna pay for that expansion, who owns what part of it, including the different CRAs and HART and the mobility department.
How much time would you like to give him for that?
How much time would you need for that?
When is this one coming back, the first motion?
This is just a discussion, and then we're going to do updates.
Right, well, and I apologize, I'm trying to get some clarity on when the previous motion was requested to come back. Did we have a?
That's done.
No.
Oh, so,
$5 million.
okay.
So,
So-
it's January?
January works for me.
Yeah,
Yes.
because December's getting kind of full.
Yes,
So
yes, January
I
is
will
good.
say January 18th.
Okay, thank you.
Can you state the full motion for our clerk, please?
Yes. Again, I would like to ask Mr. Drumgo and any appropriate staff to come back and explain how we're going to pay for this expansion, who owns which part of it. That includes mobility and a discussion with HART and possibly the other CRAs to come back January 18th.
Do I have a second? Second by Board Member Vieira. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, it is, no, it's 11:55. We're gonna go to lunch, and.
We're done.
Oh, we can take a recess. What do we have to approve?
We didn't do the approvals?
We should be able to
We
get
can
to
do
the.
these,
res-
well,
Yeah,
okay, well,
they're on consent.
I agree, but I wanted to make sure I was respecting your time. Okay, so we finished with everything, and now we're on to consent. Let me get to my page here. Approvals, here we go.
Right, and by motion of the board, you
Yeah.
can move all the required
Yes,
approvals in one
exactly.
motion.
From my first motion at my first CRA meeting.
I move items 12, 13. I move
You
items
need
12,
to be
13, 14.
recognized by the chair, Board Member Clendenin. How about my gavel?
Are you gonna beat me with it?
Board Member Clendenin.
I move items 12, 13, 14, and 15.
We have consent items presented by, motion by Board Member Clendenin, second by Board Member Miranda. Any discussion? Yes, Attorney Massey.
No, go ahead and vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
The two other things real quickly, there's a walk-on item.
Yes, we do.
To extend the conditions precedent satisfaction date for the Straz funding agreement from October 1.
Yes.
2023 to December 1, 2023.
This-
That was a walk-on.
So moved.
Oh, wow. What, we have some, hold on. We have to discuss that one. That one's just not that easy. Go ahead and present it, the walk-on item. Where is it? Yes, I know. I don't know what I did with it.
No problem.
Okay.
I can speak on the
Yes,
walk-on
just
item.
for the public,
No problem at all.
go ahead.
So this walk-on item is regarding the Straz agreement. This is to give a 60-day timeline extension for us to work out the contract, see where the project is at. Originally, the estimates are coming back higher than originally projected, so we are working with them to bring the project within the original budget scope, and we're asking that they'll come back and provide a project update and any asked at that time in November, on November 9th, the CRA meeting. So this is 60 days, so we can work with them to get that sorted out and bring back to you in November.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Deputy Administrator Drumgo.
And if I may, thank you for giving me the space to speak, Chairwoman. You know, the conditions precedent in the agreement, several of them include having permit drawings. And I don't know if, you know, I don't want to insult any of you by saying this, but, you know, pulling together a project and developing a capital stack to fund a project is a very difficult thing to do, especially in this market today. So the previous CRA board agreed to this contract, and so for us as staff, you know, we want to keep you in contract, and that's why this is in front of you today, is just to keep this agreement in place and locked in to allow for it to get to where it needs to go. Relative to the Straz, they've raised the dollars necessary to meet the funding commitment. That's one of the conditions precedent in the agreement. They've met that. And there are about, I would say, 10 or 11 other conditions, and some of them include having permit drawings. And you really can't get to permit drawings until you know what you're going to build. And so in that evaluation process of understanding your materials, which have been impacted by inflation, supply chain, things of that nature, it gets very difficult to build out that project. And in addition, when you think about financing a project, the cost of money is going through the roof. So those things that are not funded by the contribution that the CRA has on the table and those dollars that have been raised by the Straz, they have to get that capital stack in the right place relative to their material costs to then put forth a good set of construction drawings to bring that forward to you. So really, we're trying to support them as they get the project aligned to get it out of the ground. Okay? I just wanted to share that information.
Yes, Board Member Miranda.
On that case, I move for the 60-day extension.
Okay,
Second.
and there's a second. Yes, Board Member Vieira.
Did you? Okay, thank you. I want to explain my vote. I actually called up a representative of the Straz Center yesterday. I hadn't heard from anyone at the center. We found out about this 2 days ago. We'd heard about it at City Council. I didn't know the specifics. It appears that there are certain legal repercussions if the extension is not granted. I want to be very clear with regards to my intent and my vote. When I vote as I do, I'm not doing it as to quote Jerry Maguire, who's coming with me. I'm not doing that. I voted against this when this came up a couple of years ago, and I stand by my vote. I told the good folks at the Straz Center who do amazing work, and we're lucky, very lucky to have them here in Tampa, that I thought the original $15 million was more than enough, just like we did with the Tampa Museum of Art, just like we would do with our friends over at the Tampa Theater, et cetera. I voted against it because it's going to wind up taking up somewhere between 35 to 45% of the budget in year 5 for the CRA and a 5-year commitment. And I indicated, it's in the paper, it's in my statement, et cetera, that we could use that for ideas like the streetcar, like affordable housing, et cetera. And so consistent with that, I can't support the extension. But again, I want to be very, very clear. I'm not urging people to vote it down. I know that we have, I think, 4 votes on here who voted for it. I'm not urging anybody to flip their vote. I just want to be consistent with what my original intent was. I think that's very, very important. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments? I want to comment on this one because the concern for me in learning the 25 million was just a lot of money. I didn't understand it from the standpoint of blight, because it's not blight, but I understand why it was done. In terms of the contract extension, I don't like it. What I would have preferred to hear today as a walk-on item, instead of speaking in general, is exactly what they do have prepared, their community benefit agreement. For example, like something could have been brought to the table to say, this is what we've done. If they've raised the money, you know, maybe if that's true, and it's really all about just contracts, then their loan agreements that they have, now that they've raised those funds, that information could be shared with us. A little bit more transparency, so that's why I'm not gonna support it. In terms of a vote of extending the contract, because I do feel like there could have been more information brought along with just it being a memo and added to our agenda without providing details of what they actually have accomplished contractually. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Who did that motion? Board member, it was Carlson and Miranda. Which one?
I think Mr. Miranda made the motion.
Yes, board member, we have a.
Mr. Clinton seconded it.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to extend the contract of the Straz through December by board member, December 1st, 2023, by board member Miranda, seconded by board member Carlson. Let's do a roll, Clendenin, thank you.
Give it, Carlson.
No, Clendenin. Let's do a what do you call that, roll call vote?
Let me just say this, it costs no money that I know of to extend some.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agreed. But they could have shared what they have done. Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Hurtak? Yes. Clinton?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Viera?
No.
Miranda?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Henderson?
No.
Motion passed.
Yes.
With Viera and Henderson voting no.
Thank you. Okay, so is that the end of the agenda? Motion to receive and file. Oh, yeah, we have new business. I knew we weren't gonna get that
want to
lucky.
raise one point before
Yes.
you all move on. And I don't want to use the B word, but the budget, because the millage rate was reduced, your budget as a CRA needs to be reduced.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it would be reduced by the same you would have the same buckets, the same percentage. We would just reduce those amounts. But I just want to make sure that that's the desire of the board.
Board member Hurtak.
Do we need to make a motion?
I would make a motion.
Okay,
Under
I
new
make
business.
a motion to reduce that then.
Well,
Just
let's start with
basically
new
following
business.
him. I'm just following what the attorney is asking us to do.
True. Yeah, but this is under new business, so
But
let's
it's-
just start.
But I don't have any new business, I'm simply using Mr. Massey's new
I
business.
understand, but I want to go in order just to make sure. we
Okay,
get through.
then somebody else can make the motion.
Thank you, Board Member Hurtak. So do you have any new business, Mr. Miranda?
If I may, very briefly, I wanted to ask for CRA staff to meet with our friends at the Urban League, Mr. Stanley Gray and other folks on their plans for affordable housing. I was speaking to Mr. Gray maybe a month ago on this, and I promised him I'd do it, and I forgot last time, so I'm going to do it now. Okay. And I don't think we need y'all to report back. Just, Brandon, if you're listening, if you could just please follow up with our friends at CRA staff and Mr. Gray, and we can follow up on discussion. So no need to clog the agenda. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Any new business? Board Member? No. Board Member Hurtak? No. Board Member Carlson?
Yeah, two things real fast. I have to pick up my kids at 4:30 today, so I may be a few minutes late tonight. I apologize in advance. Also, I haven't made a motion about the coffee shop idea, right?
No.
Okay, so I'll just explain this real fast, and then I'll make a motion and see what you all think. I've spent a lot of time talking to Erica, and maybe Elise, Nicole, and I have spent a lot of time talking about it, and I've been talking to people in the community. You know, the secret to transportation in the future and to developing community is these neighborhood commercial districts, transportation, people call them nodes. So if we made an investment on a corner that is potentially going to become a neighborhood commercial district, we can spark development around that area. I've talked to some of the developers who, nonprofit developers who are looking to develop in different places. And we've looked at different places where these nodes might go, or community neighborhood commercial districts. At the same time, the CRA staff needs to move into an office, and it's going to be different than Hannah Avenue. And so, they're leaning towards something in East Tampa. Several people have shown me places in East Tampa where a neighborhood commercial district could go. One of the things I think East Tampa needs is a coffee shop with incubator space. There are a lot of entrepreneurs in East Tampa and people outside East Tampa that would like to support entrepreneurs, but there's nothing like a Blind Tiger or an Oxford Exchange there. And so what I would like to do is, what I think we should do is look at the possibility of investing or co-investing or renting a building somebody else would put in that might be a 3 or 4 story building, where the bottom would be leased to a coffee shop with incubator space. The middle could be either leased space or it could be affordable housing, and then the top could be where the CRA office would be. So I would like to, it's just a concept right now, but I'd like to make a motion to ask CRA staff to return on January 18th to discuss the possibility of putting the CRA staff in a building with a coffee shop and incubator space in a neighborhood commercial district in East Tampa.
Okay, we have a motion. There's discussion. Board Member Clendenin.
I think it's brilliant, Councilman Carlson, and I totally support your concept of these little commercial areas in towns to build a sense of community. Would you be, honestly, because I'm surprised by it, but would you be willing to entertain a motion to amend pursuing a concept of a design build to include artists, work, live, display space? Because part of my vision in East Tampa is creating a place that emphasizes Black artists. And I think the concept with a coffee shop and affordable housing and doing a mixed modal would really be a catalyst for what I think your vision is of creating an own little downtownish commercial district within the community. And I think having, again, that artist space, I think would be, and with affordable housing aspect of artist affordable housing, I think would be important.
Okay.
I can add with possible affordable housing.
Yeah, just pursuing with artist space as well.
I would support a separate motion, maybe like on a different corner. I think he's just trying to get a smaller building going. I would support a separate motion.
Okay, I can strike that, but it's something that people start thinking about, because I think it also would be a catalyst proposal for the community. So maybe we could pursue that in conjunction next to, as we start thinking about how this design build looks, as start securing property. At least we have that in our heads, that this is something that we're looking at.
Yeah, I was calling, anyone else was? I was calling Cedric McCray up because, he's the front line in front of the community in terms of their strategic planning and what they want. I remember us talking about a particular area on 22nd Street. And so I just want to put that in the conversation, because I don't want, the board members to think that there aren't plans for how the community sees themselves regarding this. And 22nd is just a great historical street. So can you even speak on that in terms of this commercial incubator space, and entertain me if the possibility of even a boutique little grocery store could be a part of it?
Good morning or good afternoon again. Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA manager. There is a parcel of land that or an area we're currently trying to assemble parcels. We just closed on another parcel on 22nd about 2 weeks ago, and thank you to real estate for their assistance in that work. But I believe that's kind of the area that we're talking about, and there are a couple other pieces that we need to get, and we'll be aggressively working to try to secure those to have one contiguous piece on North 22nd.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just wanted to shed light on that just for those who are not familiar with it. Thank you, Board Member Carlson, for caring so much about East Tampa and moving forward. Incubator space is, of course, very popular throughout our city. And, I think that would be a great benefit to the area. Is there any other discussion on this? Okay, so we have.
Call the question.
Yes.
If I may,
Deputy Administrator.
Madam Chair, if I may, you know, I hear the discussion as well. I just want to make sure, because the CRA does own property on that, you know, on that corner, which would be adequate for this use. But, you know, the more feedback we get from you all and the more, I would say, things you add to that, it makes it more challenging because of the restrictions of the site. So, you know, we heard a grocer or boutique grocer, we heard the collaborative spaces. And so for us, when we go back and we explore conceptual design on this site, you know, we need some clarity because they all have different parking counts and loads and requirements. And so just sticking with what, you know, what the board member said, we want to make sure that we.
It was just a comment and a desire, not a part of his motion.
Understood. I just want to make sure that staff has that
Yeah.
clear direction, because we need to go back and cross-compare that with the feedback we received from the community for the utilization of that site. And I think that we can pursue this fairly easy. So we appreciate that.
Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, I just want to say, I was careful to not mention any specific site, although there are at least maybe 4 or 5 places that would be great for this, and maybe more. But that way the community can give input into where they think it is. And yes, there are other projects like assembling pieces around some of these that have been going on for several years. I think but I don't want to bias it for any particular property owners or developers, and I don't want us to pay a huge amount of money. So the more open we can leave it right now. But the other thing that brings up for a separate motion another day is if folks are assembling land and developing something around a neighborhood commercial district, we might want to start, we provide facade grants, we might want to start providing design grants, because some of the renderings I've seen are maybe not to the quality that folks would go into. I think with not too much more money, with a better design, the community would have buildings that they would be really proud of. Sometimes people go in a place like East Tampa and they try to do it as cheaply as possible. We need to make sure there's design that people will be proud of 100 years from now.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have would you like to say something, Director Moody?
No, I think we're at a good point.
Okay.
When is this coming back? January 18th.
January
18th.
Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Carlson, second by Board Member Miranda, correct? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so I would like to move, can I get a motion for us to have staff roll back the budget to the current millage? We have a motion by Board Member Miranda, second by Board Member Maniscalco. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion to receive and file by Board Member Maniscalco. Oh, excuse me. Yes, Clerk Soto.
Yes, me.
What motion? Oh, the standard breaking?
I apologize. Okay, let's vote on that officially, though. So, was it a report?
No.
It was a motion.
Yeah, it's just a motion to have, request to have a meeting. Yes.
Okay, we have.
didn't vote on that?
No, we did not. I thought it was a report,
I'll be
just a
Do we
request.
even need that to have a motion? Can't we just request it?
Might as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want it to be a motion? We have a motion by Board Member Vieira, second by Board Member Maniscalco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion to receive and file by Board Member Maniscalco, second by Board Member Miranda. All those in favor? We are adjourned.